Qing City's black market, a chaotic place where shady deals and questionable individuals gathered like vultures. "Excuse me, sir," a voice announced. "I am selling a kidney here, and throw in a spare cornea for good measure." The black market doctor looked suspicious. "Fidged, are you serious right now? You've liquidated more organs in 6 months than a whole hospital." "That's fine," the young man insisted firmly. "To save my gravely ill sister, becoming a living collection of empty spaces is a worthy sacrifice." "Alright, do we got guts?" "Pidged," the doctor smirked, brandishing his cleaver. "Let us make sure you properly disassembled for profit then." A blood-curdling scream tore through the night, officially signaling the start of the brutal and highly unethical procedure. He landed heavily on the wet street, sending a shockwave of bone-piercing agony through his body. "My kneecap, my hip joint," he muttered, dragging himself into an alley, feeling like a cheap action figure losing parts. Despite the bleeding abdominal incision and empty eye socket, he merely smirked, grateful that at least nobody followed him. Immediately, the brilliant golden light enveloped his damaged eye, rapidly initiating a high-speed regeneration sequence. The wound on his abdomen snapped shut just as fast, demonstrating a healing ability that could make Wolverine jealous. These 30,000, plus the previous amount, should finally cover the transfer ritual. He mused, clutching the wad of cash he'd exchanged for pieces of himself. "The sick sister?" he scoffed to himself while strolling through the empty alley. Seriously, did anyone actually believe that completely fabricated sob story? "That's right, my name is Yulin, a transmigrator, and a bona fide orphan with absolutely no family to save. And this world," Yulin pondered while standing at the gates of the academy, "was definitely not where he expected to land. It truly is a place absolutely teeming with giant magical beasts, weird strange creatures, and so many dungeon instances that basic survival is a daily struggle. That is, until I realized my unique ability, body regeneration, which instantly heals everything and even regrows new organs when needed. I use this incredible ability to sell organs for profit, gathering enough cash to finally pay for the class transfer ritual and awaken my power. Only then can I establish a secure foothold in this incredibly dangerous and treacherous world, and keep a few people I actually like safe from harm. Today," Yulin noted, checking his phone with sparkling bright eyes, "was officially the day of his big momentous ritual." Yulin's classmates noticed him and immediately started whispering, wondering how a broke student like him possibly afforded the class transfer ritual fee. He earnestly explained to Teacher Wang that he had to borrow a considerable amount of money just to get this opportunity. In the back, students gossiped, convinced that if he got a useless class, all his hard-earned money and efforts would have been completely wasted. Teacher Wang patted Yulin's shoulder encouragingly, telling him, "Since you've come this far, just give it your all. Go on inside quickly now." Hundreds of nervous students stood silently in the vast square, all trying to look composed under the principal's careful scrutiny. The principal announced the next student's name in a deep, formal voice that echoed across the waiting crowd. The male student named Gao Dai worked forward, his heart heavy with anxiety over the exorbitant fee and the grim future that awaited him if he failed. "Place your hand on the orb and completely relax your body," the principal instructed, while the anxious student tentatively made contact. The results were announced. He had been assigned the prestigious class of poultry farmer, which, surprisingly, fell under the support category. The principal tried to comfort him with an old saying, insisting there were no worthless classes, only worthless people who couldn't use them. Immediately after, the strikingly beautiful girl with flaming red hair stepped forward, radiating confidence as she called the next name. The crowd instantly erupted in excited cheers, shouting in recognition of their school's superstar, Yujanini. The principal beamed with pride and offered a good luck blessing, which Yujanini accepted with a perfectly composed thank you. The moment her hand touched the orb, the colossal pillar of fire erupted, releasing a terrifying amount of energy that made everyone gasp. The principal first froze in shock before exploding with joy, declaring her an SSS-Rank fire mage and claiming Qingshan Academy could finally hold its head up high, while everyone else descended into pandemonium over the miraculous outcome. Yulin merely observed the chaos in silence. He began to think to himself, a single SSS-Rank fire mage could single-handedly defeat an entire army, making the girl incredibly lucky to avoid being a poultry farmer. The principal immediately began to fawn over Yujanini, promising a personalized training plan because an SSS-Rank transfer was a monumental achievement. As Yujanini descended the stage to a chorus of admiration, the principal called out the final name on the list, Yulin. Yulin strode past the school goddess, his gaze fixed straight ahead, silently resolving not to be a mere supporting character in her story. With blazing eyes, Yulin faced his destiny, deciding whether to accept a miserable life or defy fate itself and reshape his future. He placed his hand on the awakening orb with a decisive motion, knowing the single moment would determine everything. An earth-shaking surge of energy exploded from the orb, coalescing into the shape of a colossal green dragon that let out a deafening roar. Yulin was stunned as the immense surge of power enveloped his body, witnessing a phenomenon that defied all prior knowledge of class transfers. The entire assembly, from the principal to Yujanini, fell silent, marveling at the bizarre phenomenon and wondering if Yulin was also an SSS rank. Standing amidst the dissipating magical smoke, Yulin looked bewildered and asked the principal what exactly just happened. The principal regained his composure and announced with solemnity, Dylan, SSS-Rank combat class, forbidden spellmaster. Immediately afterward, the principal's face twisted in horror as the implications finally registered. SSS-Rank forbidden spellmaster, though now, the sudden applause instantly evaporated, replaced by mocking laughter, as the crowd began to whisper about the class's notorious short-lived curse. Jujinini looked down with a condescending expression of pity, remarking that an SSS-Rank forbidden spellmaster's life was practically already over. Malicious taunts swirled around Yulin like ghostly whispers, metaphorically dragging him from the heights of glory straight down into despair. The principal placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to console him. Dylan, don't be negative. It's better to burn brightly for a short time than to fade into obscurity. Dylan, feigning encouragement, wiped away his tears and asserted his determination to shine and bring glory to the school. But deep down, he merely sneered at their pity, thinking, Dayam, you fools have no idea about my secret immortality. The ceremony finally concluded, and a reflective twilight settled over the academy. Yulin trudged along, reflecting on the exhausting day and deciding all he really wanted was to go home and get some good rest. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the quiet, calling out his name from somewhere directly behind him. Jujinini suddenly appeared and offered him a surprising partnership. Join me, she declared. I don't want you to kick the bucket prematurely. Yulin simply gave her a polite smile and declined immediately. I appreciate the offer, he said, but I think I'll be fine on my own. Having her proposal rejected, Jujinini fumed, calling him an idiot asking for a quick trip to the afterlife, then spun around and stomped off. Yulin continued on his lonely journey, wondering to himself if the girl was perhaps a little unhinged. No sooner had he started climbing the steps than a crew of hoodlums jumped in his way, recognizing him as the celebrated SSS-Rank student. Dylan, he responded icily, ordering them to move aside so he could go home, while mentally trying to pinpoint exactly who sent these clowns. The leader scoffed, mocking his intention to return to his tiny 10-square-meter apartment, then offered him a security guard job at G Corporation in exchange for calling him father. He kept spewing verbal garbage, claiming Yulin would soon be working at G Corporation and could use the paychecks to finally afford incense for his deceased, unfortunate family. That sneering question, whether an orphan deserved a family in the first place, sliced through his defenses like a very sharp blade, reopening old wounds. His patience finally sapped, and Yulin snarled that they had left him no choice, immediately manifesting a terrifying eye of pure energy. He bellowed in sheer rage, demanding they never utter a word about his deceased relatives again. A frightening pulse of power erupted directly from the earth, sending the whole gang flying through the air like bowling pins. The boss shrieked in complete terror, "Are you completely insane, Dylan? How dare you utilize forbidden magic on us?" As they watched in horror, Yulin simply raised his hand in a dismissive gesture, daring them to try and fight him. The entire crew, absolutely terrified, spun around and ran like the wind, screaming that Yulin had lost his marbles and everyone needed to save themselves immediately. He watched the arrogant thugs scramble away like whimpering puppies, and Yulin gave a click of his tongue, completely unimpressed. Standing in the giant hole he had just created, he grumbled, "My insides feel like they're being cooked," specifically that part near the stomach. Watching from a distance, Jujinini witnessed the entire spectacle, muttering scornfully, "What a moron, Dylan, you're definitely not worthy to be my sidekick." As darkness descended, the worn-down apartment building became completely still, wrapped in a blanket of silence. Finally reaching his abode, Yulin flung his bag onto the nearest chair, allowing himself to finally exhale and let go of his tension. Inside his rented space, we did a quick calculation. If summoning destructive purple lightning costs him a piece of his heart, going for chaos divine lightning might actually kill him. Once he got inside, Yulin slumped onto the chair, feeling a powerful wave of vertigo overwhelm him as a side effect of using his regenerative abilities. Completely drained, he stared at the ceiling fixture, with a profound sense of exhaustion washing over every part of his physical being. Meanwhile, Yahello rushed home and pleaded with his father, saying, "Dad, you absolutely must send an assassin to finish the guy off." His father coldly responded that it was far too dangerous and financially unsound to start a conflict with a magic user capable of SSS-Rank spells. The man extinguished his cigarette, instructing his son to deploy the Jai family's ultimate weapon, monies, to attack the opponent's vulnerable point. The following day at Kinking Academy, every single student assembled for the upcoming crucial examination. Yulin strolled in, stretching and yawning widely, entirely oblivious to the fact that he was the hot topic of discussion following yesterday's altercation. Suddenly, a recognizable voice cut through the air, shouting his name. Dylan, Yahello, wearing a friendly grin, stepped into his path, presenting a breakfast and milk, saying he brought some food for him. Yulin squinted suspiciously, muttering that if one couldn't win fair and square, resorting to poison was clearly the next step, but the young master quickly denied it. Yahello began explaining that Yulin had awakened him like a bolt of lightning, causing Yulin to roll his eyes and impatiently demand he get straight to the point. The young master suddenly dropped to his knees, earnestly declaring that he really wanted to be able to call Yulin his big brother. Yulin stayed in total disbelief. Yet Jilin Yu doubled down, insisting that Yulin was the great role model he desperately needed to follow. Sensing an opportunity for profit, Yulin smirked, noting that if this was truly a mentorship arrangement, paying a small tuition fee would only be appropriate. He casually announced the cost while walking away, instructing the young master to transfer exactly $2 million into his account as the initial semester's tuition. Despite being momentarily stunned, Jilin Yu quickly agreed just as the loudspeaker announced that the Nava secret realm had opened. The examination portal, which looked like a deep blue energy vortex, began to activate in the center of the stadium. Yulin's fire-person team, including Jujinini and Gao Deu, collectively recited their pre-battle victory slogan in unison. From high above, Principal Gao and elders from other schools watched, discussing King Cheng's two extraordinary SSS-Rank rookies. The red-bearded elder spoke with heady sarcasm, asking why the principal was so quiet and whether he had suddenly lost his ability to speak. Dissatisfied with the principal's response, the other elders invented various excuses and swiftly departed from the observation area. A loud voice echoed across the stadium, marking the official beginning of the test and commanding all examinees to immediately proceed into the examination grounds. As the lights swirled, Jujinini made one last offer, saying it wasn't too late to join her team, only to receive a short and very blunt refusal from Yulin. Having been rejected, the red-haired girl angrily muttered about his arrogance, concluding that if he insisted on a death wish, she certainly wouldn't interfere. Yulin charged ahead completely alone, plunging into the chaotic space of the portal toward a completely unknown battlefield. He landed in isolation within a dense, silent forest, finding himself entirely separated from every other examinee in the group. Yulin quickly assessed his surroundings, realizing he was the only one present and wondering if the teleportation had randomly scattered everyone. The leopard cat immediately sprang out from the surrounding foliage, but Yulin offered only a dismissive smirk, calling the beast a simple kitten. Yulin raised his hand, gathering electricity, deciding to use the creature as a convenient test subject for his forbidden art, saying it was a perfect opportunity. A massive bolt of lightning slammed down, instantly obliterating the monster, and a system notification box immediately appeared afterward. He muttered about the calculations, clearly expressing his dissatisfaction with the meager amount of experience points gained in comparison to the significant energy cost. A sudden surprise attack caused Yulin to fly backward, but instead of panic, he felt only excitement at the sight of the rapidly approaching horde of shadow monsters. He stomped his foot firmly against the ground, instantly regaining his balance and stabilizing himself for the fight ahead. Yulin stood upright, ready for action, staring down an entire army of roaring shadow monsters that were charging directly toward him. His gaze sharpened with focus, deciding to unleash his ultimate trump card and declaring that it was time to test his new forbidden spell on the whole group. He tensed his muscles, releasing an enormous surge of destructive energy that quickly formed into the shape of a giant ghostly skull. The destructive force of the forbidden spell erupted like a bomb, instantly eradicating the entire charging horde of monsters. Standing proudly amidst the explosion's aftermath, Yulin felt supremely confident in his newly acquired power, ready to face down any other approaching enemy. Yulin fought completely alone, charging furiously left and right as he maneuvered through the encirclement of ferocious monsters. Ignoring the obvious peril, he braced himself, preparing to deliver a truly devastating finishing move. Age a decade in just 5 minutes. Thorpe, realizing the forbidden technique was rapidly eroding his precious life force, but Yulin brushed off his anxiety. Brolin, continue. Self-preservation is completely irrelevant. He lunged forward with a yell. Sacrifice everything. His hand pressed firmly against the soil, activating a truly massive magic formation. A forbidden spell, world-destroying karmic fire, caused a destructive blue pillar of flame to erupt, engulfing everything in sight. A long string of notifications popped up, confirming countless monsters had just been obliterated in a single, powerful strike. Incredible. I skipped directly to level 3. Yulin cheered in the inferno, utterly delighted with his successful acquisition of her new forbidden technique. Elsewhere, in a different part of the woods, the solitary figure of Jujinini appeared under the pale moonlight. She was stunned by the catastrophic scene, noting all the monsters had turned to ashes and asking what happened. As she neared a still, burning ember, she realized with a gasp, this light, it truly feels like hellfire. Why are the fire elemental fluctuations so intense? She pondered, finding it difficult to believe another powerful fire user was actually present here. Her eyes gleamed intensely, as if she had detected something important. It appears King Sheng really does harbor hidden geniuses, she declared. Jujinini, promised to find this person. Shifting back to Yulin, he was busy roasting truly massive chunks of monster meat over a blazing bonfire. This three-eyed demon pig meat is shockingly delicious, he mumbled to himself, quickly devouring the food. He ate until he regained his strength, then stood up, ready for the next hunt, deciding it was time to move to a more remote area for monster farming. The voice suddenly echoed from the darkness. Yulin, is that really you? Causing him to jump in surprise and turn around rapidly. A stunning woman in crimson robes emerged from the shadows. Asfin, Yulin, what exactly are you doing here? Yulin muttered an internal curse. This bad timing. Why did I have to encounter her right now? You worried? I absolutely cannot allow her to uncover my secrets. He quickly responded, I am only cooking some food, but Jujinini immediately cut him off, saying, I already warned you, forbidden spell expert shouldn't journey solo. She turned around, coldly stating, I lack the time to form a team with you. Cease following me, which simply annoyed Yilen and made him click his tongue. He couldn't grasp her strange logic, thinking to himself, is this woman truly lacking a few brain cells? Suddenly, Jujinini turned around and asked, right, did you happen to see anyone else pass by? Someone highly skilled in fire magic, perhaps even proficient in hellfire. Yilen felt a slight pang of guilt, but swiftly made up an excuse, mentioning the term hellfire. Yes, I actually saw him. A real handsome guy, he said, pointing that way, reminding himself to be much more cautious in the future. Believing his fabrication entirely, Jujinini immediately headed off in the direction he had indicated. As she walked, she muttered regretfully, if only Yilen hadn't interrupted me, I would have already caught up with an hellfire user. Suddenly, the massive surge of killing intent made her freeze, causing her to raise her head in full vigilance. The gigantic, level 8 monstrosity, specifically a dragon blood behemoth, suddenly appeared at her back, making her gasp in sheer, unadulterated terror. The beast swung its enormous claws in a powerful attack, yet she managed to duck and roll out of the path of the devastating strike at the very last second. As she staggered back upright, a wave of hopelessness hit her in the face. A level 8 creature here guaranteed defeat. She knew she couldn't possibly win against something so powerful. She glanced around frantically, searching for Yilen, but she found nothing. That absolute coward probably bolted and is already miles away from here. Finding herself trapped, Giovanni launched a ferocious fireball storm as her last chance counterattack. A fierce volley of fiery projectiles impacted squarely against the colossal monster's enormous frame. No dice. The monster was completely unscathed, only bothering to slightly open its glowing golden eyes in response. Releasing a deafening roar, it launched itself high into the air, intending to smash the girl below into a fine dust. With certain doom approaching, Giovanni summoned her powerful grimoire, declaring with a snarl that she would stand and fight until her last breath. Giovanni unleashed another continuous stream of powerful, explosive fireballs. However, the dragon blood behemoth merely raised its sharp, bony wings to effortlessly deflect every single one. No way, the girl thought, absolutely stunned by what she was witnessing. In an instant, a destructive blast of energy slammed into her, sending her flying backward through the air. The immense level 8 beast stood tall over her, a truly overwhelming display of strength. Battered and bruised, Giovanni felt deep despair. She realized she had been too overconfident, finding the specific, pathetic place to die incredibly humiliating. Unexpectedly, a colossal column of blazing scarlet flames suddenly shot down from the heavens. The intense, raging energy began to coalesce into the specific form of an enormous, mythical creature. In an instant, the dragon blood behemoth was completely engulfed and consumed by the massive inferno. Giovanni stood completely flabbergasted. That must be hellfire, she thought, watching the level 8 behemoth get killed in an instant. Looking up, she spotted a shadowy figure standing on a branch. Did you just save me? She asked. Thank you so much. What is your name? The mysterious person, cloaked in black with their face concealed, answered frostily, just call me Lingy. For a brief second, Giovanni's expression flickered between confusion and deep emotion. She rapidly pressed on, Claspit Lingy, where are you studying? You saved my life, so I really need to give you proper thanks. No thanks are necessary, I was merely passing through, the person responded, mentally adding that he strongly preferred to avoid any further entanglements. Noticing him preparing to depart, she instantly scrambled to her feet and shouted, Lingy, hold on for a moment. He turned back, his tone sharp with caution, do not follow me, it is extremely hazardous ahead. Also, I think you really ought to change your attire. That pointed observation immediately caused Giovanni to flush crimson, especially as a large, torn piece of material fell from her upper torso. Completely mortified, she let out a piercing scream before collapsing to the ground in a heap. Staring intently after her fleeing savior, Giovanni swore aloud, Lingy, just you wait. I promise I will catch up and eventually stand right next to you. Meanwhile, Yilen had already sprinted out of the dense forest. He let out a sigh of relief, thinking to himself, she probably won't chase me anymore. What a complete simpleton. She cost me far too much precious time. I need to focus on increasing my level much faster. Suddenly, a new forbidden spell appeared. Thundian, sacrificed 2 years of lifespan to become completely immune to one fatal blow. Yilen was ecstatic, realizing this forbidden technique meant he would never have to worry about being ambushed from behind again. He could now essentially ignore forbidden attacks that required sacrificing a heart or a head. This technique truly is a stroke of genius. Now, absolutely nothing can stop me from grinding levels like crazy. At the same time, in the viewing area, parents were excitedly discussing the final day of the exam. The headmaster of King Academy smiled and greeted everyone, only to be promptly ridiculed by another elder for boasting about having 2 SSS-Rank pupils. The principal responded humbly, expressing his hope that this year's results would break all previous records. Suddenly, the powerful and commanding voice echoed through the room. Principals, It certainly seems like all of you are in quite high spirits today. The newcomer was Zhao Chansin, Kinking City's premier astrologer, who had arrived to visit his daughter. The principal immediately praised, Nai is truly the shining pride of our entire academy. Suddenly, the secret realm's teleportation portal began to shimmer, and a shout rang out. Luft! Someone is actually coming out. The group stared in astonishment, wondering why a participant would exit early when the time hadn't ended yet. Zhao Ganini's graceful figure emerged from the spatial vortex, looking perfectly pristine, as if her attire had just been fully restored. She was shocked to see both her father and the principal waiting, while they eagerly demanded to know her current level. Zhao Ganini confidently declared, I have reached level 12, as a verification board simultaneously confirmed her status as a level 12 fire maid. The elders and principals gasped in sheer astonishment. What? Level 12? Has the record really been broken so soon? Zhao Ganinian playfully teased his daughter, suggesting she easily could have reached level 13 if she had simply stayed longer, but she merely replied that it was just too boring inside. Zhao Ganini's eyes sparkled with renewed determination as she thought to herself, I came out early specifically to hunt you down. Yelena, don't you even think about running away from me this time. Meanwhile, in a dangerous forest inside the secret realm, Yelena suddenly sneezed and wondered, that SRB, did someone just curse me or something? He realized he had completely cleared out all the demonic beasts from the level 10 zone. Muttering under his breath, did I really kill them off too fast? To expand his search range and find more challenges, Yelena decided to move on. In that case, I might as well try out this newly acquired forbidden technique. He sacrificed a kidney, activated the swift feather technique, and let out a triumphant roar. 10 times my agility. Even in a rank wouldn't he possess this incredible speed. Parhar. This is fantastic. Yelena was absolutely thrilled by the result. He launched forward like a lightning fast arrow. His body transformed into a brilliant streak of blue energy, slicing through the air and tearing through the trees with impossible speed. The surrounding scenery blurred into nothingness, left behind in the briefest fraction of a second. He finally located his next targets, a massive cluster of ferocious cyclone mantises. Yelena stared down with the focused intensity of a hunter, spotting the 3 mantises and declaring them his property. Without a moment's hesitation, he continued his strange ritual, announcing, I hereby sacrifice my bladder. The destructive lightning bolt descended from the sky, accompanied by its awfully dramatic name, Forbidden Technique, or ending frenzied thunder. Back outside, Dagnini remained perfectly calm, observing the frantic students pouring out of the teleportation gate. She started to grow quite impatient when the specific person she was waiting for failed to show up, muttering, that's very odd. Why on earth hasn't Yelena made an appearance yet? The elders began to whisper among themselves about the absence of the other top-ranked student. With less than 3 minutes remaining, Zhao Ganini tried to reassure herself, did I somehow miss Yelena? No chance. I have stood here waiting this entire time. Suddenly, she lifted her head and saw a familiar outline emerging from the portal, thinking, wait, the shadow, it must be him. Zhao Ganini was completely stunned when Yelena worked out, casually remarking, time ran out, so I left. Is there a problem with that? She instantly turned away, coldly dismissing him with a sniff. It definitely couldn't be a coward like you. Leave me alone. Faced with such a baffling and irrational reaction, Yelena simply scowled and asked, what's wrong with you? Are you unhinged? Just then, the principal rushed over, practically vibrating with eagerness. Yelena, you finally made it out. What rank did you achieve? Yelena confidently announced his new status, revealing a truly unbelievable number. I am currently level 16. The crowd was absolutely shaken, calculating that achieving that level required eliminating 1200 high-level monsters. Principal Gao swelled with pride, throwing an arm around his student. Absolutely wonderful job. You're the star of Qingshan Academy. Meanwhile, the elders from the rival schools offered their own explanation. What's so impressive about reaching level 16? He is a forbidden technique master, after all. Whispers began to circulate, suggesting that Yelena had traded away his life force just to earn a moment of fleeting popularity. Elder Su from Yutai Academy stepped forward, accusing Principal Gao of forcing students in a deadly situation simply for the Academy's reputation. But Yelena firmly stated that this was entirely his own choice, to shine brightly and make a big splash just this one time. Zhuge Qingshan praised his determination, asserting that regardless of the methods, Yelena still secured the top spot in this assessment. He approached Yelena, introduced himself as Zhuge father, and then generously offered his future assistance. Suddenly, an elder in red robes objected. Who said he's number 1? When Lingyi emerges, his rank certainly 1 TB lower than that. When no one actually knew who Lingyi was, she remained stubbornly insistent, making Yelena internally scoff. You stupid woman. Just keep waiting right there. Concluding there was nothing else to discuss, Yelena requested permission from the principal and Mr. Juge to return and rest. The moment he departed, the secret realm gate sealed shut, and Juge Nini began wailing hysterically because the person she waited for never appeared, somehow blaming Yelena for the whole ordeal. She prepared to chew out her farther, but Juge Qingjingli smoothly interrupted, stating he already believed her, then asked if she had snuck out early just for the purpose of identifying someone. He then posed a hypothesis so startling it silenced the whole group, asking Nini if it was actually possible that Yulin was the elusive Lingy she had been searching for. Nini steadfastly insisted otherwise, scoffing that Yulin could never compare to Lingy, describing the young man as utterly timid, like a frightened rabbit. Coincidentally, across town in a city apartment, Yulin was suddenly seized by an incredibly powerful sneeze. He grumbled to himself, wondering who was talking smack about him, and immediately concluded it had to be that ridiculous girl Nini again. The sudden sound of her knock on the door made him curious, prompting him to wonder who on earth would be looking for him at this late hour. Standing outside was a stranger in a business suit who introduced himself as Manager Wang from the oddly named Brain Boost King Company. The manager immediately skipped the formalities, proposing Yulin become their brand ambassador in exchange for a ridiculously generous sum of cash. Yulin's eyes lit up at the mention of money, and he asked without hesitation just how generous actually was. Manager Wang flashed a sly smile, held up a small bottle of medicine, and revealed the shocking figure, a full $3 million. Yulin was left speechless, while the manager continued to blabber on enthusiastically about the product's miraculous supposed effects. Thinking to himself that this bargain was easily worth more than his internal organs, Yulin decided to try the product on the spot. We didn't think twice, immediately tipping back his head and chugging the entire bottle of brain tonic in one go. The taste was perfectly acceptable, somewhat sweet, he noted, right before realizing something about the situation felt incredibly off. A little dizzy, he thought in a daze, just before he lost consciousness and collapsed to the floor. Yulin crumpled onto the sofa, while Manager Wang flashed a cunning smile and made a quick call to report to his superior, ordering him to come collect their target. In a dark, secluded location, a subordinate questioned why they had gone to such ridiculous lengths just to capture a single student. Inside the dimly lit room, Manager Wang bowed before another man, who quickly dismissed him, ordering unauthorized personnel to step back. The man bent down to examine Yulin, his voice shaking with astonishment, discovering all the organs the young man had sold him in the past had somehow grown back. He clutched his face in a fit of ecstatic madness, screaming that with this kid's help, he would finally unlock the very secret of regeneration itself. The savage cackle echoed through the chamber as he descended into fantasies of gaining immense power and unending riches. Hearing an unexpected sound, the boss jolted in alarm and spun around in confusion. He was horrified to find Yulin wide awake, exclaiming that his tranquilizer was powerful enough to keep an elephant sedated for 6 hours straight. Yulin remained remarkably calm, crossing his arms and stating he was far more interested in knowing precisely how they managed to track him down. The boss quickly recovered his arrogant composure, summoning his weapon and ordering the kid to surrender, only to pause in surprise as he realized Yulin was also a level 20 class changer. Yulin resolved to take action, deciding there was no other alternative, but reasoned that using fire magic would torch the entire location, so he opted for a less destructive approach. A truly frightening cold aura suddenly radiated from him as he began to chant, "Forbidden spell, Eternal Frost Spear." The boss began to panic as the ice encased him, yelling, asking exactly what was happening and what kind of magic this truly was. He desperately tried to break through using his short blade but found he couldn't even put a dent in the ice, shouting that he refused to believe it couldn't be cut. Frozen completely solid, he let out a final desperate scream, claiming it was impossible, since Yulin was only level 16, and demanding to know what kind of freak he truly was. Yulin settled into a chair with calculated composure. "Okay, let us have a civilized chat about this whole situation. Other than you, does anyone else caught wind of my special talents yet?" Rising to his feet, he fixed them with an icy stare. "Fine. I suppose I'll accept your explanation for now. Let us wrap this up without further delay." The powerful fist rocketed forward, tearing in on the frozen figure. The sculpture of ice and the individual trapped within both exploded into a million shimmering pieces. Yulin turned on his heel and departed, internally groaning. "Ugh. After downing that vile concoction, I am pretty sure I'll need to write off my entire digestive system." The darkness quickly swallowed up the remaining lackeys, who were dispatched in less than a heartbeat. Yulin seized the trembling Manager Wang, the only one left standing. "Start torquing," he commanded. "Who exactly gave the orders here?" Confronted with a terrifying crackle of electricity in Yulin's palm, the manager immediately crumbled, agreeing to spill everything. "I'll torque, I promise." He began to weep openly, blubbering that their leader was Kensen, the undisputed ruler of King Sheng's criminal element. The name struck a chord, making Yulin ponder. Kensen, tough. Well, this just went from messy to genuinely complex. Back in the King Sheng black market, the formidable boss stared icily at his underling, demanding clarification. "Excuse me, what exactly did you just tell me?" Kensen was absolutely stunned by the news. Jaihu vanished, after going to handle a simple, broke college kid. He scoffed in disbelief. The hairless henchman continued. "By the time our team reached the location, the farm was completely incinerated, clearly the work of a fire element user." An explosion of fury shook the room as Kensen shattered the tiles, bellowing, "Find him, search everywhere, investigate instantly, no expense spared." Simultaneously, Jialinyu enthusiastically greeted Yulin and his sprawling estate, blissfully ignorant that the supposedly penniless student was standing directly before him. Adopting a self-important air, Yulin brushed aside the mention of funds, Now that you address me as older brother, you're officially my menin, so a little thing like cash is irrelevant. Yahello slung an arm around Yulin in a familiar gesture, ushering him inside and pretending they were lifelong friends. However, internally, Yahello scoffed, thinking, father was right, this guy is laughably naive and uncomplicated. Yulin was busy with his own secret plan. ILL lay low inside the Jai mansion. He figured, I highly doubt Kenson would have the audacity to send his goons here to grab me. The moment he set foot in the grand entrance, Yulin found himself absolutely flustered by the seemingly endless procession of stunning servants greeting him. He couldn't stop himself from marveling at the truly extraordinary and opulent existence enjoyed by the privileged elite. Yahello leaned in with a suggestive whisper, older brother, see one you fancy. I'll have her dispatched to your chambers tonight. Yulin declined the suggestion, prompting Yahello to insist he get dressed for an important upcoming function. Yulin pressed for details, but Yahello simply offered a cryptic grin, stating, all will be revealed once we arrive. They pulled up to King Sheng's most prestigious annual auction, renowned as the pinnacle of luxurious gatherings. Disregarding Yahello entirely, Yulin made a beeline for the catering table, declaring, first things first, I need to get some grub in me. Yahello observed him with disdain, internally searing, a poor person's habits are impossible to change. I see. Yulin quickly ate everything in sight, justifying it to himself, I had to sacrifice a stomach earlier today, so I absolutely must refill my tank immediately. Suddenly, a recognizable voice cut through the background noise, causing Yulin to look up from his food. Yulin, what are you doing in this place? The girl with striking, plate, colored hair caught sight of a recognizable figure in the bustling crowd. She nudged Zerganina sharply, demanding, hey Nini, do you know who the person is? The exasperated Yulin, rolled his eyes internally, wondering why this clueless girl seemed to be following him everywhere. Liu Yanwei leaned in with curiosity, questioning, I distinctly recall you mentioning an amazing fire magic prodigy. Could this perhaps be him? Zerganina immediately dismissed the notion, huffing, yes, just that spineless coward who abandoned me. Let us get moving. Yulin watched the duo disappear into the distance, a sly smirk spreading across his face as he mused. I bet she'd look like she swallowed a lemon if she knew I was the infamous Ling Yi. The ambience suddenly dissolved when a rather intimidating squad of men, sporting expensive leather shoes, marched aggressively toward him. Yahello emerged from the crowd and stiffly presented his companion to his subordinates, announcing, everyone, meet my formidable older brother, Yulin. The subordinates immediately started voicing their objections, only for Yahello to disdainfully interrupt, asking, have you any idea what combat level my incredible big brother has achieved? The subsequent revelation absolutely floored the entire group. Yulin had somehow managed to hit level 16, a feat considered the pinnacle of achievement within the novice secret realm. Yulin casually draped his arm around Yahello, adopting an air of superiority while confidently making a generous offer. If we could somehow venture beyond the city walls, they announced, I would personally take charge of leading you all on a leveling spree. The subordinates were ecstatic about the proposal, yet Yahello's spirits immediately sank as he explained, unfortunately, we are strictly prohibited from exiting the city limits before the upcoming exam. Yulin proposed a clever loophole, but then let out a theatrical sigh, lamenting, my level is fantastic, but my inventory is completely empty of decent equipment. Yahello quickly capitalized on the opportunity, puffing out his chest and confidently announcing, equipment acquisition, that's child's play. Inside a truly extravagant auction hall, Yahello made a lavish pledge, asserting, just help me level up, and consider everything you want here to be yours, courtesy of me. Yulin adopted a look of mock astonishment as Yahello adamantly clarified that his father was willing to finance anything in exchange for achieving high scores in the upcoming test. The spotlights illuminated the main platform, revealing a poised female auctioneer who stepped forward to warmly address the gathered crowd. She presented herself to the audience, stating, my name is Ching Ching, and I represent the esteemed Zhenbao Auction House as your host this evening. As soon as her initial greeting concluded, the spacious hall immediately erupted in a wave of appreciative, enthusiastic applause. The initial item was unveiled. It was an epic fire element skill scroll, beginning with a minimum bid set a hefty 500,000 credits. Bids immediately began flying from all directions, rapidly pushing the price upward to 600,000 credits within the blink of an eye. As the bidding war heated up, Jiverkai King remained perfectly calm, nonchalantly shouting out an astonishing 3 million credit bid that left the entire crowd speechless. Tucked away in a corner, Yulin secretly scoffed at the extreme extravagance of the wealthy elite, feeling superior because as a forbidden spellmaster, he didn't rely on purchasing skills to succeed. Yahello nudged his older brother, currently operating under the alias Lingyu, and told him to raise his bidding paddle if he identified any particularly valuable items. The auctioneer King announced the next item for sale, the Imperial Dragon Ring, a legendary artifact considered a supreme treasure, starting with a base bid of 2 million credits. The entire room immediately exploded with activity as bids were rapidly and continuously placed, reflecting the fierce competition for the item. Yulin couldn't hide his smirk. He immediately recognized the ring's true worth and gave Yahello the explicit order to begin bidding. Yahello turned obediently to face his father, and the powerful man in charge simply granted his permission with a single, affirmative nod. Chairman Jai boldly announced an 8 million credit bid, all while secretly plotting that the item would eventually return to the family's possession once Yilin inevitably met his demise. With victory seemingly within reach, the auctioneer announced the 8 million credit bid for the second time in rapid succession. Without warning, a new voice pierced the silence, declaring, "I offer 10 million credits," revealing the bidder as Ken Sen, the shady mafia kingpin strutted alongside a gang of meatheads. Old Pops froze when he saw the party crasher, asking himself the reason such a famous thug showed up. Yulin jumped seeing Ken Sen, definitely the final guy that youth hoped to bump into today. He spun around faster than a top, whispering that the scary boss must not spot his handsome face. Jai demanded some answers, but Ken Sen snarled that he murdered those goons, then asked for a polite explanation. Till he lied, Chairman Jai boldly pushed the price to 12 million, making the sale a struggle for respect. The villain grinned, took the bait, and promised he would keep playing this stupid game until the very end. Elsewhere, a minion told Ken Sen that the creepy car definitely went back to the Jai family's big fancy house. Holding the proof, Ken Sen wore a mask, his eyes full of spicy rage, vowing to raise the Jai clan while things were heating up, costing 12 million big ones. At last, Chairman Jai gave the shiny jewelry piece to Yilin, wondering if the kid liked the pricey toy he bought. Once the scary man vanished, Jai Linyu asked his dad who that grumpy fellow actually was. Yilin quietly told the old boss to watch out, since tall trees always get hit by wind. That fancy dragon ring boosts your magic stats and gives the lucky owner 10 points of pure gambling luck. Yilin said he would train the boy, so the happy chairman offered to pay regarding every piece of gear. Back in his bedroom, the sleepy but hyped Jai Linyu begged his big bro to pick some stuff. Lots of goodies were shown, including the thunder, powered ring, the moon, Mel jewelry piece, plus those yin, dang twin armbands. Yulin grinned, grabbing everything, mostly the bracelets that hide his secret power to heal like a lizard. The boy gripped that starful blade, the godlike tool that gets way stronger whenever stars come out to play. The massive Azure Ghost Tiger yelled in back of Yulin while he claimed they would be totally unbeatable now. Meanwhile, Jujanina sat in her bath, grumpy and asking why the Jai family liked that scaredy cat Yulin. She guessed that wasting a fortune on a loser must mean they are planning some super evil secret. Suddenly, the servant walked in, saying Liu Yanwei was here with news concerning the human she really wanted. Jujanina looked happy instantly, telling them to stay put, hoping for a juicy update about that Lena guy, wearing an expensive black gown. She asked Yanwei directly if there was any fresh gossip regarding her Lena. Yanwei showed off her friend, saying, "Manish, lead detective Ju Jiahun, who knows things about your Lena." The girl asked again nervously, but the detective told her that he had nothing but bad news. Detective Ju Jiahun mentioned a huge fire at the farm, where all the clues led straight back to Lena. "No way," she yelled, arguing that a mean killer would never have rescued her from that big mess. Yanwei attempted to quiet her upset buddy, whereas that snoopy detective questioned further concerning Lena's hidden romance. The lead's report included a wild claim, suggesting Yulin and Ling are identical. The girl hopped up like a caffeinated kangaroo, shouting Yulin seems cowardly and isn't he actually Ling Yi. Puan's peepers turned a bright violet to catch any fibs, asking if she was really for real. Relying on that magical lie detector, one agent dropped every concern and departed alongside companion Liu Yanwei. In another spot, Ling Yu joyfully dragged Yulin toward the facility to try out some novel gear. Working up, Yulin requested a 40-tier gym despite only having 16 levels. Seconds later, he stood alone in a giant hall packed with elite robots ready to fight. A gazillion tiny red light bulbs flickered on as those metallic punching bags decided to strike back, clutching his blade while smirking. He saw no lenses nearby and decided to unleash his full power. He swung his blade, screaming a super edgy attack name about roasting his previous incarnations. One simple swing unleashed a gigantic wave of blue energy that deleted everything nearby, chilling in the middle of fresh scrap metal. He nodded and decided to break more things. In the lobby, Lin Yu told the desk girl that Yulin was a superhero. The teen strolled out and complained the high-level room broke too easily, so he wasn't paying a cent. Afterward, the duo simply wandered off, making the office girl stare in complete and utter shock. Feeling like something was fishy, she spun around fast to check out the practice chamber. What she saw made her jaw drop, as the once fancy hall now looked like a trash heap. Over at the Jai estate, a couple of bouncers were acting very tough while watching the entrance. Whoosh! One miniature venomous spike flew across wind currents and pierced some sentry right in his jugular. The other sentry freaked out and asked why his buddy was suddenly taking a nap on the floor. The fellow froze like a block of ice right before he also hit the dirt. Within those walls, the Jai patriarch startled at the racket and yelled to discover the cause. The elderly servant scrambled in, panting and begging the boss to flee immediately. However, the poor guy didn't even finish shouting before hitting the deck with a dramatic yelp. Some random guy materialized, grinning quite wickedly. "Hey Pops, our reunion is finally here." Identifying that villain as Ken Sen, one dad yelled while pulling out a weapon. So, the killer acted more swiftly, flooring the old fellow with zero effort. The dim real aboard a P. Shooter to a super human brawl, we chuckled, The nervous lackey scrambled inside with the news. Chief, they vanished like a free buffet. The boss screamed about the losers escaping. So drive this guy out and kill him later. Meanwhile, the heroic duo of Yilin and Yahello headed toward their fancy home. Why is it darker than our cave in here? Did the electric company quit? Yahello wondered. Yilin froze instantly, his spectacles flashing with a vibe that promised zero mercy. I smell iron and trouble, he shouted while sprinting inside like a track star. Yilin reached for the toggle, prepared to illuminate whatever nightmare waited in the dark. Brightness flooded the room, showing a messy floor covered in a pile of very dead dudes. This must be the wrong address because this is not my home. Yahello gasped, while Yilin told him to be cautious. Yahello bolted further in, shouting for his father and old Uncle Fu with total desperation. Scouring the mess, Yilin grabbed a scrap of parchment and beckoned his pal over to check it out. He passed the mysterious note over to his buddy to share the discovery. The note demanded that he bring Yilin to the bazaar to save his dad, otherwise the old guy would lose parts every few hours. Yahello smashed the paper into a bowl, screaming that he would turn Kensen into fertilizer. Yilin said this mess was his fault, but Yahello snapped back that he intended to handle the rescue personally. Since his friend would not listen, Yilin chopped his neck while he was shouting about how he had her go. Catching his fluffy companion, Yilin muttered a vow to bring the kidnapped elder back in one piece. He tucked the snoozing Yahello into a comfy mattress for some much needed rest. Yilin looked ice cold, whispering that Kensen was about to learn why you never annoy a suicidal magician. Tucked away in a grimy alley, a spooky skull logo sat painted on a crumbling stone surface. The secret bazaar in King City was crawling with bouncers who forgot how to smile. The dark silhouette drifted down, landing softly like a ninja on a mission. Yilin started a sneak attack, rocking a mask and jewel blades like a badass. Perched high up, he figured his speed was the only thing hiding him. A creepy grin suddenly appeared in the shadows and shocked Yilin, who wondered how they spotted him so quickly. Henchmen surrounded him with pistols, asking what century he lived in and why he was lurking in the dark. Red dots covered his chest as he realized those fancy heat sensing cameras had ratted him out. Traps. We chose to stop being sneaky, whispering that a direct charge was the easiest way to handle this mess. Yilin let out a powerful scream, activating the forbidden burning samsara technique, which involved trading his left arm for a tremendous surge of dark energy, a rather steep price for a single move. Disguised as a frail, elderly man, Yilin clutched his side with a dramatic wail. Oh dear, my kidneys are failing me again. The armed henchmen pointed their weapons, with one getting the order. The boss says he has a pest, so take him out immediately. Yilin performed an acrobatic flip to evade the hail of bullets, causing several vials of mysterious medicine to spill out of his pockets. The massive explosion of terrifying purple energy completely engulfed the surrounding area in a blinding light. The subordinates could only watch in stunned silence as figures disappeared completely into the swirling vortex of power, reverting to his actual form. Yilin stated, "Well, it looks like things have escalated, and nobody who sees me tonight is getting out of here alive." He charged forward aggressively, challenging the unseen enemy. "Kensen, your master has finally arrived." Suddenly, one of the subordinates appeared from the side, unleashing an attack called Wing Magic. Wind Blade. Yilin skillfully dodged the surprise attack, internally acknowledging, "Wow, that was surprisingly quick." He rapidly analyzed his attacker, concluding, "A wind element awakener, at least level 30 or higher." Two new figures blocked his path, with one scoffing, "You little brat, showing up here by yourself? Are you truly that eager to die?" Yilin drew his sword with a sharp gaze, simply replying, "I am afraid you're out of luck, since I brought my weapon to the party." He swung his sword while dramatically shouting, "Starfall Silver Sorcery, Life Sword, that in. Let us find out exactly how many times I can stab you." The red, brown, paid subordinate roared furiously in response, "Danti Gakaki, brat, Wind Magic, Dragon Spear." Yilin stood his ground without flinching, charging directly into the fray with his first sword move. The female assassin in purple seized the chance to attack from the side. "Dylan, fast, take this, Wind Blade." Yilin spun to avoid the blow and instantly countered with his second sword technique. The female assassin sneered dismissively, "You're really fast, but were you trying to give me a back massage?" Yilin charged forward confidently, declaring, "Done T warrior, just wait and see, you haven't T even begun to understand my swordsmanship yet." He unleashed the third sword, which violently collided with a red, paid subordinate's weapon. Despite facing two opponents simultaneously, Yilin didn't T back down and executed the fourth sword. He unleashed a barrage of continuous strikes, from the fifth to the eighth, completely overwhelming the battlefield. Another subordinate screamed in horror as he watched his comrade fall. "Seventh brother." Yilin calmly looked at the energy orb in his hand, commenting, "Looks like that eighth strike was perhaps a bit too powerful." The remaining subordinate fell to the ground, stammering in utter despair, "How can this be happening? What kind of swordsmanship even is this?" Removing his mask, Yilin coldly replied, "It's really none of your business." With a quick flash of the sword, the female assassin shrieked in terror as she saw yet another one of her comrades fall. "Fifth brother." She screamed hysterically, her terror boiling over into a desperate accusation, "You are absolutely not human. You are a total devil." With her dying gasp, she managed a faint devil, before dramatically dissolving into a small, yet impactful, pile of dust. Villainer, with the silent precision of her ninja chef, meticulously formed hand seals, his killing intent coalescing for the grand finale of bad news. With a nonchalant pivot, he departed. His early pronouncement, a casual nobody-s punching out alive tonight. Folks, remember I said that, now chillingly sealed their unfortunate fates. The thunderous detonation suddenly echoed, the formidable partition instantly dissolving into rubble from an unseen, aggressively powerful surge. The few remaining henchmen bolted, howling with existential dread as their physical selves commenced an unsightly, piecemeal vanishing act. One particularly distraught fellow shrieked, "This guy is unkillable." Reaching the staircase base, a newly energized Yulin initiated his next perilous quest, audibly numbering his weapon strikes. Simma to the first, then Simma to the second. Though a bit scruffy, a playful twinkle sparked in his gaze as he cheerfully warned the escaping target. "Seriously, stop fleeing, or I must restart my entire numerical sequence." Without warning, his visual focus snapped rigid, like someone encountering a particularly bizarre, entirely unpredicted anomaly. Yulin's trajectory was suddenly impeded by a formidable, very tall silhouette, revealing itself as Jiazu Kai, the notorious level 42 black market grandmaster from King City. "Alright. Sword, what's your magic power?" The assailant probed with bewildered interest. "You look like Rokul," but refused to actually stay dropped. Yulin, gasping for air, cleverly soared to gain moments. "Kindly disarm yourself of that formidable chopping implement initially, then I might reveal something." "Right then, I suppose I'll just dispatch you immediately and examine the fascinating bits at my leisure," thundered Jiazu Kai, hefting his immense battle axe before hurtling ahead. The thunderous boom resounded, and the very terrain instantly fractured into myriad pieces, utterly failing to withstand the blunt, disrespectful power of the immense strike. With peril squarely in his face, Yulin toppled on a nefarious, forbidden sorcery, the aptly named Phoenix Cycle, causing shadowy, potent energy to vigorously emanate from him. Jiazu Kai simply scoffed, remarking, "So, the mystical dabbler, beige, trading vital moments of your existence for some fleeting strength. What a sensible move. Seriously, what's your predicted expiration date?" Both opponents swiftly met, their implements of destruction striking with incessant vigor in a lightning, fast engagement. Yulin emitted a gush of sanguine fluid, his mind acknowledging, truly, an elite individual, designated Awakener, with their impressive tier 42 rank, is a particularly potent foe. Magician, employing an actual blade. Jiazu Kai merely snorted, announcing, "My friend, your proficiency with a blade persists in being quite inadequate." Yulin instantly comprehended the approaching threat, the solitary, desperate impulse dominating his awareness. My sole course is to avoid this incoming strike. Alas, the moment had already passed, and a tremendous, cutting blow perforated all his painstakingly constructed protective barriers. Catapulted across the space as if an inanimate rag doll, Yulin bellowed in torment, then brutally slammed against the opposing edifice. Within the fractured remnants, just his solitary limb, specifically a hand, remained discernible. So, Jiazu Kai seemed somewhat deflated. Concurrently, Yulin grudgingly acknowledged, just as anticipated, my mastery of the sword remains undeniably deficient." However, his various injuries then started mending in an utterly astonishing fashion. "Fine," declared Yulin, now on his feet. "You've absolutely instigated my next move." He commenced a grim offering, literally exchanging vital interior components to manifest an awe-inspiring might. Meanwhile, a glacial sheet stealthily advanced over the entire fighting ground. The gargantuan, frozen worm abruptly appeared, emitting a mighty bellow and snaking its form about the vast high-rise structure. Jiazu Kai simply froze solid, his gaze brimming with sheer terror from the overwhelming power, utterly inconceivable. He vociferated, simultaneously observing his corporeal frame starting to fracture and crumble due to the penetrating, biting frost. The black market's top fighter let out one last squeal, which quickly vanished, becoming just another sound swallowed by the freezing ice. This once mighty creature was now little more than a pile of black ashes, rapidly disappearing into thin air. Yulin stated coolly, "My sword skills might be lacking, but you should probably ask the king of the underworld about my electricity." He stumbled on, feeling light-headed because giving away so many of his organs was clearly a bad bargain. Tencent, meanwhile, was chilling out in his bedroom, totally secure, believing nothing bad could happen with Jiazu Kai on guard duty. The lady next to him cooed pretty compliments, blissfully ignorant that a very angry guest was about to crash the party. Without warning, the bedroom door exploded into splinters, thanks to a sudden burst of violent green power. Yulin entered, his voice cutting like glass, demanding to know where Uncle Jai was. Tencent bolted upright in bed, "Vast, how did you get in here? Dupunk, what happened to Jiazu Kai?" "Deceased," Yulin stated bluntly. "Now it is your turn," he added, leaping forward to attack without delay. Tencent scoffed, intercepting the sword with his palm. "You really think he can beat me, little boy?" He easily struck Yulin, causing him to instantly cough blood, illustrating the massive gap in their abilities. As he strangled Yulin with a single hand, Tencent sawled, "Try not to repeat this mistake in your next reincarnation." He angrily threw the lifeless body to the side, sighing about the pointless interruption to his evening. But then Ken-sen suddenly stopped moving, a really bad premonition forcing him to look back at the kid. Right in front of him, Yilin was getting back on his feet, his wounds rapidly vanishing as if by magic. "Dear, you can be a liar?" Ken-sen stuttered, absolutely terrified by the sight. "Dead," Yilin countered. "I still have so many things to do," as he activated a forbidden technique by literally popping out his eye. "What in the world is this spell?" Ken-sen yelled, completely unable to move as ice began climbing up his legs. Yilin looked down at his helpless target and asked, "Where did you take Uncle Jai?" "I'll never tell you anything," Ken-sen declared through clenched teeth, refusing to make a sound. "Then I guess you don't need those hands anymore," Yilin replied, and Ken-sen let out a high-pitched shriek of agony. Abruptly, another shattering sound echoed from the end of the car door as a new door exploded. A woman in very little clothing emerged, aiming a pistol directly at Yahello US farther. "Warning, stop moving or I'll pull the trigger." "Dov, hostage negotiation," Yilin chuckled, clearly unimpressed by this predictable plot twist. "Stay away," she shrieked, but Ken-sen shouted back angrily. "Go away, I don't need a babysitter right now." Panicked, the woman squeezed the trigger and fired off a series of handgun shots toward Yilin. The incoming projectile sank deep into his chest, forcing Yilin to stop moving momentarily. Watching him drop, Ken-sen screamed at his partner, "You fool! Bullets won't stop him for good." The girl stood paralyzed as Yilin slowly stood up from the spreading puddle of red, completely unscathed. The guy casually lifted his digit, making frosty vibes gather like a winter sail at a mile. "That is illegal magic," the lady wailed with pure dread when her pistol turned into a popsicle. "I am the culprit." Ken-sen moved to block her, claiming the girl was completely clueless about the situation. "Way too loud," Yilin sighed, sliding around the pair while aiming his blade at the captive. Having wrecked Ken-sen, Yilin dryly asked the surviving female, "Why the yelling? You are not leaving this place." She gaped like a fish as Yilin snatched the knocked out prisoner, stuttering, "You're into Ken. Am I next?" "Stop being silly. I do not murder ladies," Yilin grunted, throwing the old man over his shoulder. "Beat it." Abandoned in the wreckage, the girl could do nothing but blink stupidly at his walking silhouette. Everything changed to a town tasting the fire, which was the spicy result of hitting that shady bazaar. Back at the Jai Palace, Jai Lingyu was super pumped to find his pops chilling safely in the sack. The kid started leaking from his eyes. The dad gave some hugs saying things were fine, while Yilin spectated from the corner. The older Jai fellow questioned Yilin about the rescue mission that happened while he was dreaming of sheep. Yilin smoothly cooked up a lie. "My pal Lingyi saved you," and he even toasted that illegal shop. Even with his suspicions, the father dropped it, and bugged the boys about the big tests coming up. Suddenly, Detective Yu Zhuang and his squad crashed the party, claiming Yilin was a suspect in a homicide. Yilin pondered that fighting the cops was bad for his health, so he decided to tag along temporarily. Jai Lingyu threw a tantrum, but Yilin told the dad to pay the bond and was promised the fanciest attorney. Simultaneously in another spot, the door got kicked in like a scene from an action movie. Helper strolled inside to update Yujinini, saying, "We finally got some spicy intel on Lingyi." Yujinini jumped up with sparkly eyes. They spotted him, but the aide mentioned that Officer Huan was waiting for her below. The staff member sneaked into the corridor, letting out a couple of suspicious little hacks and wheezes. In a different area, the shady helper gripped his mobile, whispering that he never expected Yilin to take down Ken-sen alone. Yilin was hauled off to the King City cop shop, where a bunch of annoying questions were surely waiting. Within the chilly questioning chamber, some dude wearing a dark blazer stepped inside to stare down the hero. Staying cool as a cucumber, Yilin stated, "I am keeping my mouth shut until my legal eagle shores." The cops irked. "You are one cocky little brat." He snatched Yilin by the shirt, barking, "Sork, where is the stuff?" All Yilin asked what thing. "Put the act. Give me the key you swiped from Ken so you can live," the officer yelled, before smashing him against the bricks. Even though he had no clue what the guy meant, Villainer, quite the fabricator, decided to spin a yarn, proclaiming, "I've got the key, folks, just a friendly heads up," he added. "Dispatch me and the key will forever remain a mystery." The interrogator, pulling on his captive's hair with a grip like a vice, puffed. "So, you actually possess the key, do you, Villainer?" "Ever the master of delaying tactics," replied, "Precisely. Just grant me my freedom, and I shall hand it over." A truly magnificent soul, rattling punch quickly informed Yilin that his captor's well of patience had run completely dry. As he dramatically crumpled to the ground, Yilin meekly requested, "Might I trouble you for a quick phone call?" The interrogator, with a sneer worthy of a villain, nonchalantly assented. With a receiver pressed to his ear, Yilin muttered inwardly, "For this current humiliation, dear friend, prepare to settle a debt 10 times as large." A mere 10 minutes later, a remarkably refined individual made quite the entrance. Du Jekingsing sauntered in, remarking with an air of utter nonchalance, "All right, let us call it a day. Here's your little trinket." The interrogator, performing a sudden and rather dramatic personality transplant, respectfully returned the precious key and vanished faster than a free donut at a police station, utterly devoid of objection. "Do you lantern?" his mind thoroughly boggled by the entire spectacle, managed to stammer out, "My dear Mr. Jur, I am profoundly grateful for your most timely intervention." Jaekyungsing pivoted sharply, his gaze instantly piecing like a laser pointer, then cautioned, "Furthermore, spill the beans about your mortal body, and everyone will be on your tail like a pack of hungry wolves." A chilling, decidedly homicidal thought instantly flickered through Lin's mind, his most guarded secret now out in the open, making him ponder. He knows my big quirk, perhaps a swift, decisive elimination is the next logical step. He feebly attempted a denial. "An immortal body, you say? What on earth are you blathering about?" But Jaekyungsing simply offered a knowing, infuriating smirk, casually observing, "Dwarf, the lovely, homicidal glimmer in your peepers a moment ago spoke volumes, confirming my suspicions entirely." Confronting a rather cautious Yulin, he then unveiled a truly astonishing proposal. "Tell me, Yulin, how would you feel about becoming my esteemed apprentice?" Jaekyungsing's abrupt proposition left Yulin utterly flabbergasted, sputtering, "Hold on, become your personal pupil." Yulin remained thoroughly perplexed by the cryptic burden that the encyclical astrologer had so casually alluded to moments before. Without warning, Jaekyungsing dramatically produced a shiny key. This instantly sparked a puzzled thought in Yulin. "Didn't you, just moments ago, hand that exact key to him? Dor, that was a mere decoy," he cheerfully elaborated, gently placing the authentic article into Yulin's palm. "This, my friend, is the genuine, ancient key to the apocalypse." He then unveiled its true nature, a supreme artifact of immense power, designed to unlock mystical energy portals peppered across the entire globe. Yulin gazed intently at the archaic key, now sensing the undeniably heavy burden of impending fate settling squarely in his hand. Despite begrudgingly accepting the apprenticeship, primarily because his options were somewhat limited, he still felt a significant tremor of self-doubt, confessing, "I honestly don't know if I am cut out for such a monumental task." Jaekyungsing, with a reassuring pat on the shoulder, "Indeed, there is actually one more rather significant responsibility I need to impart to your care. After I inevitably kick the bucket," he stated with a cheerful, somewhat unsettling smile, "please look after Nai splendidly for me." Yulin found himself utterly flummoxed by this utterly unforeseen and bizarre request. He awkwardly raked his fingers through his hair, attempting to redirect the conversation. "Dorv, my esteemed master, you'll undoubtedly enjoy a remarkably lengthy existence." Jaekyungsing simply let out a booming, full-throated laugh, advised him not to get ahead of himself, and then the pair promptly exited the rather chilly detention chamber. Moments later, the action swiftly moved to the truly magnificent Juge family mansion. Juge Nini, having just breezed through the front door, was absolutely livid, exclaiming, "This is utterly preposterous. How could father possibly take on a sniveling wimp like you as a cherished student?" Lounging on the cushions, the young man suggested she pass to the old fellow for the truth instead. Nini sprinted toward her father as he descended the stairs, asking what this loser was doing in their parlor. Old Juge didn't he just confess? He dropped a truth bomb that Yulin was a secret hero she admired. The girl smirked with a look of pure disgust, claiming that her dad had clearly lost his mind. She spun on her heel and declared the house wasn't big enough for both, then left to find the real deal. The old man comforted the boy, mentioning that the brat was basically untouchable in this town despite her ego. He mentioned the big scary test was approaching, then handed over a mysterious package that might keep him from failing miserably. Yulin opened the gift, asking what kind of treasure was hidden inside. Inside sat a magical disguise kit for identity theft, making the boy grin while thanking his mentor for the loot. At the meeting spot, Lingy waved her arms like a maniac, touting that her favorite brother had finally arrived. He bragged about the new partnership, but Nini stood nearby talking trash about how her father was totally scammed. Lingy jumped to the rescue, telling the grumpy girl to stop throwing dirt on her brother's perfect reputation. The school bus finally pulled into the big assembly area. The headmaster stood before the anxious crowd and gave a fiery speech about nailing the upcoming survival test. The mob yelled out in one giant voice, "Screaming for when." It took about half an hour for the whole line of cars to reach the massive front gates of the city. The kids had never seen such a giant wall before, so they all started gasping and pointing like total tourists. Yulin nudged his partner, telling her to stay glued to his side and follow the script once they left. The boss explained the first challenge involved walking 10 miles through a forest filled with hungry, biting monsters. The heavy iron doors groaned open, sounding like a thunderclap across the landscape. Yulin and his two companions stood at the very front as the grand finale finally kicked off. The mob rushed out like people running toward a free buffet, while Jude screamed about finally beating his rival. Watching from the high ramparts, some old-timers noted that last year's crop was tiny, expecting even fewer survivors this time. Dao stroked his chin hair and looked smug, betting that at least 2 of his kids would get into college. The moment they hit the dirt, the lovely perfume of rotting monster guts hit their noses like a wet sock. A level 11 lizard with a serious attitude problem showed up and screamed, making everyone's souls leave their bodies. Seeing the beast's gnarly teeth, the terrified students chose the noble path of running away while screaming like small children. High up on the ramparts, the ginger veteran sighed at how pathetic and soft the current generation of heroes seemed to be. In the middle of the scramble, Someone yelled for everyone to move before they charged headfirst at the scaly beast. Suddenly, a guy with blue hair popped up and delivered a surgical strike, turning the scary lizard into a pile of sushi. The old-timers were shocked, wondering if that illegal Mage Yilin hits level 16 without even trying. Our guy Yilin just lounged around like a boss, barking, "Ling Yu, scoot over then end this fight." The boy Jai Ling Yu hopped to it with a wide grin, as those other students gossiped about Yilin's big brain plays. While Yilin crunched numbers in his head, the feisty redhead glared, swearing, "Just you wait, I will totally crush your score next time." Led by Yilin's tips, the duo kept clobbering every nasty creature that dared to cross their path. Hitting level 8, Jai Ling Yu joyfully hollered, "Big brother, you're officially my only boss from now on." Yilin kept it cool, saying, "Put the party because the local trash is gone and we must dive deeper." Level 20 mobs gave Jai Ling Yu the jitters, but Yilin said he could handle the heat easily. From a distance, the testing site looked like an ancient ruin having a party with modern glass skyscrapers. High atop the ramparts, and Master Gao started sweating once he saw Yilin plus Jai Ling Yu walking into the high-risk murder area. Groups of winged creatures bolted from those trees, which usually means some big fight is about to start. The duo sped up, diving headfirst into the spooky parts of the map that nobody explored yet. Right on cue, Perry wolf dudes plus grumpy green monsters stepped out to be annoying speed bumps. Yilin calmed the nervous Jai Ling Yu, saying, "Do not fret, big brother. I cherish my own skin too much to die today." He muttered sacrifice, prepping to unleash a soul-sucking blade move. A massive wave of azure doom exploded, deleting everything in the vicinity without a second thought. Staring in disbelief, Jai Ling Yu asked, "Big brother, is this overkill method how you normally hunt?" Yilin stayed icy, mentioning, "This is nothing. The real gore fester's not even started yet." Suddenly a referee blocked the way, warning, "You are not allowed to leave the playground during the test." While Jai Ling Yu panicked about the rules, Yilin just said, "Okay," as if he actually cared. Suddenly, Yilin felt a deadly vibe, causing his eyes to narrow into sharp slits. He screamed at the back of the clueless official, "Watch your 6 right now." The guy laughed it off, claiming, "I have 20 years of experience and will not fall for your childish pranks." Behind him, a level 33 goblin hero appeared and let out a roar like a rock grinder. The man turned ghost white, screaming, "Run, that monster is way too high level." During the mayhem, Yilin told his friend, "Sram, I will play the hero distraction." He gave Jai Ling Yu a swift burp, barking, "Whenever I say bolt, just move and stop torquing." Facing the beast solo, Yilin knew killing it without revealing his secret sauce would be tricky. Seeing no choice, he prepared another forbidden hex, whispering, "Sacrifice." Sudden rain. Simultaneously, that frantic official decided it was high time to launch a bright red emergency signal. The rocket of desperation zoomed skyward, closely followed by a sound resembling his pleading shriek. The emergency beacon flashed its brilliance for a second, then vanished into the dark cloak of night. Yilin mused internally, if only he had gracefully fainted, sparing me the trouble of covering my tracks. Why the dramatic flare launch? Honestly, all of a sudden, the massive goblin champion let out a deep rumble, sensing some fresh meat had wandered into its territory. "Oh gooder, a pair of them. Were they polite?" The 2 inspectors who just arrived instantly assumed combat stances. The lady with the fiery hair yelped, "Trouble brewing," while her partner advised, "Test subject. Tram quickly now. We really don't wish to accidentally turn you into abstract art." "Right then," Yilin confirmed, hoisting the clearly ailing inspector onto his back. "This poor soul is banged up. I am getting him out of here." As he dragged the man toward the shadowy edge of the thicket, a sly grin began to stretch across his face. "See, a brilliant scheme is forming in my mind." He produced a minuscule container, mumbling to himself, "What marvelous timing to finally test out this fake skin contraption." A whisper, thin, almost ghostly layer, resembling a false face, was carefully draped over the unresponsive Inspector's features. Instantly, Yilin sported an entirely novel visage, exclaiming with genuine glee, "Not bad at all, this is quite entertaining." Meanwhile, the 2 official guardians were braced for a brawl, the woman commanding, "Dispatch this thing swiftly. We absolutely cannot allow it to interfere with the final assessment." The male inspector snarled at the monstrous foe, "You disgusting brute, how dare you interrupt this important final examination?" Just at the critical juncture, Dylan, now in his assumed identity, dashed over, shouting with over the top enthusiasm, "Comrades in oversight, assistance has arrived on the scene." He charged ahead, proclaiming with a theatrical flourish, "Allow me to handle this vile creature myself." A dazzling explosion of yellow light erupted as he unleashed a forbidden technique, the legendary eternal arrow. The gigantic beam of pure light streaked forward, impaling the goblin hero's bulk in a deafening, magnificent detonation. The familiar system prompt appeared then. "Congratulations, your group has neutralized a level 33 goblin champion, earning experience points and a handy symbiosis trinket." Yilin casually scooped up the dropped prize, remarking with feigned indifference, "Though look, something dropped. The chances of magical beasts coughing up loot are notoriously slim. You know." The male inspector could no longer contain his fury, jabbing a finger accusingly, "Blast it all, which particular division do you belong to?" Not only did you fail to assist, but you brazenly nabbed all the glory that belonged to us. In his cleverly fabricated inspector guise, Yulin replied smoothly, just label me a helpful stranger, if you please. I never stick around to have my name attached to good deeds. The female inspector snapped back indignantly, helpful stranger my foot. Never mind that for now. We must conclude this test first, and then we track down that imposter later. Peeling off the borrowed facial covering, Yulin gave a mischievous chuckle. Plea. After this bit of fun, catching me will be like chasing smoke. He had successfully secreted himself within the thick woodland skirting the edge of the suburb, conveniently close to the exit portal. Simultaneously, the genuine examiner remained completely unconscious in a well-fitted toy corner. Returning to his actual features, Yulin complimented his gear. I must confess, this illusionary skin prosthetic is truly a masterpiece of deception. We then inspected the second piece of loot, that symbiosis charm, which sparked a wonderfully greedy notion. Brilliant. If I play my cards right, this is practically guaranteed double experience. Suddenly, a truly desperate yelp for rescue pierced the relative silence of the surrounding woods. It turned out to be poor old Yahello, being vigorously chased by a couple of hairy, man rejects, desperately trying to cling to life. He let out a shriek of pure terror as those monstrous claws aimed right for his unsuspecting anatomy. Just when doom was about to strike, Yulin swooped in like a spandex-clad hero, blocking the nasty swipe, which left Yahello utterly flabbergasted, muttering, "Le man, don't sweaty, buddy, you're fine," Yulin smoothly declared, conveniently fabricating a story that the other tester took care of that fuzzy menace. He gently clasped Yahello's hand, causing the poor soul to well up with misplaced affection. Big brother, I never imagined you were the type to. Blast it all, what bizarre fantasy is running through your head? Sram, you do for all? Yulin bellowed, shoving the bewildered chap aside to confront the snapping beast. He then whipped out the dreaded necromancer's secret, the left, draining blade dance. Tearing up for one massive, sweeping flourish, the electronic voice announced that a low-level Anubis guard, mere level 13 fodder, had been vanquished, and the spirit-linking perk had just kicked in. Yahello stared at the strange mark now blooming on his skin, practically vibrating with excitement. What in the Sam hell is this sorcery? Is this some kind of soul-bond trinket? Where on earth did you snag this gem? Go earn your own miserable XP off this small fry. Draw ball, Yulin commanded, prompting Yahello to rush a panicked defense. But seriously, big brother, that was just a huge blunder in perception. I swear I am strictly platonic, Yulin ordered with a chilling lack of warmth. Bleedage. Stick to your own lane, adding that since they now possessed this shared XP rune, solo grinding was essential for maximizing the experience hall efficiency. Yahello scratched his scalp awkwardly. But finding adequate low-level critters around here is proving quite the challenge. Over in a different patch of woods, the cluster or test takers were grappling fiercely with their situation. Keep swinging. That level 10 shapeshifter is just about ready for its dirt nap. Suddenly, the blur of motion zipped past with unbelievable velocity, prompting one participant to yelp. Or, what was that incredible burst of speed just now? The blur unleashed a quick spell, conjuring 3 animated skeletons that promptly dismantled the werewolves, leaving 2 onlookers slack. Good heavens, what brand of dark arts obliterates 3 wolves in one single second? One person instantly clocked the phantom figure. I recognize him. He's that infamous forbidden spell weaver, the top dog from the last trial. Though another scoffed, the short-lived one. Slaughtering mobs like that, is he actively trying to retire early? They gasped as he instantaneously sprang back to full vigor. Page, Luft, yes, mending himself. Seems like that fancy wrist, or is doing the heavy lifting for him. The brooding spellweaver mentally grumbled. I absolutely must keep the secret of my ridiculously resilient constitution under wraps. Meanwhile, the distressed young woman was being hotly pursued by a monstrous minotaur, shrieking pitifully, "Get away, somebody save me from this brute." The first group of students also bolted in pure panic. Fiddlesticks, bulls, that's a level 20 minotaur charging us. The 20 can flatten us faster than a pancake. Right in the eye of the raging storm, Yulin casually strolled up to face the monster swarm. You lot Sram, these hapless beasts are all mine to handle. With a quick flash of emerald energy, Yulin swept his blade, making short work of the entire monster mob in a single, decisive move. Tucked away safely, Yahello erupted in joyful cackles as endless pop-ups detailing experience gains flooded his vision. To horror, my big brother is an unstoppable titan. Who could possibly keep pace with his insane climb and power? Back in the higher tech command center, Principal Gao peered intently at the screen displaying the fallen minotaur and noted with a frown. He lamented with a sigh of missed opportunity. If the talented youth hadn't been saddled with the curse of the forbidden caster, our academy would have snagged yet another legendary powerhouse student. The different, unhurried contingent of students proceeded forward leisurely, their self-appointed leader fanning himself with a flimsy paper accessory. See, I told you all along, starting late is actually a strategic advantage. Once the initial monster rush dies down, our route will be significantly less perilous. He explained himself to the gleeful pack, who eagerly marched onward. Splendid work. At this clip, we'll make excellent time. We should reach the designated transport point without a scratch. Pick up the pace, remarked one particularly smug cluster of students who opted for a supposed shortcut. Unseen by them, Yilin was mentally tallying up his progress, calculating that every single beast was vanquished, and he'd simultaneously hit level 18. Now standing directly before the gargantuan next challenge, Yilin shouted the portal was open, so it was time to enter the last testing zone. With the confidence of her cat chasing a laser, he marched ahead while the reality around him cracked like dropped porcelain. The interior view blew his mind, as he realized this must be the final zone before he spotted Buddy. You joyfully sprinted over while screaming about your favorite big brother. You're totally my idol, plus I hit level 15 already. The excited lad babbled while hugging Yilin until he exploded. Unhand me before witnesses see us, they barked, while a nearby lady in red grumbled about her pathetic 2-level gain. Real power determines the winner now. Just as several officials dropped from the clouds like heavy rain to impress the crowd, they hit the ground by a massive rock slap. Then a sharp voice ordered quiet before a suited fellow approached them. Best wishes to every hopeful student out of Qingcheng joining this famous 886th ultimate evaluation. Call me Chief Lin Yuan, and since you survived the deadly forest stroll, you get to face the two-part main event. You must pass 10 stages worth 10 points each, earning 85 total to qualify for the arena fights where every ring win grants 10 points toward the total. The total of 150 is the ceiling for determining the year's big winner. Lin Yuan warned that using cheat items is a big no, leading to instant booting, so consider yourselves properly informed now. A giant rock slid aside to reveal a hall, as he waved for 10-person lines to shuffle toward their doom. Yilin felt the static electricity tickling his skin, looking intense because this moment would finally settle his entire future. With a look that could melt butter, the young man swore he would take charge of his own life starting today. The bright burst of energy signaled that the ultimate showdown had officially begun for everyone. Inside that massive building, the cream of the crop students marched right into the grading zone. Inside the control center, Big Boss Lin Yuan checked the roster of potential failures. Out of nowhere, Su Changxin from the fancy academy popped up, apologizing for being fashionably late to the party. Lin Yuan chuckled and said it was no big deal, asking if any students were actually worth watching this time. He tossed over a folder, pointing out a level 18 kid who was great but sadly doomed by his circumstances. Su looked shocked that the kid used illegal magic, but promised the top school would probably still take him in. Lin Yuan sighed that if the boy were a band mage, the city would have birthed a literal legendary beast. Screens displayed his perfect grades, showing a 480 power index alongside a spirit score of 1,199. The staff went wild wondering how a restricted mage could be buffed like a gym rat, questioning reality itself. From the stage, Lin Yuan declared the start of the hitting things hard phase. Show us your absolute best moves. A smirk played across Yilin's face as he considered unleashing his ultimate technique, but using the divine chaos lightning would certainly blow his cover. So, he decided to dial it back, opting instead for the weakest lightning bolt available, which he ironically called Sacrifice Tonsils. He then unleashed a shockingly destructive bolt, roaring the name of his forbidden art, world-ending lightning, as if it were a casual Sunday stroll. One female examiner stared in disbelief, wondering how a mere level 25 dummy could be so completely and utterly vaporized in an instant. The rest of the staff struggled to keep their composure, muttering about how that student had the audacity to deploy forbidden magic during a simple final exam. Without a moment's pause, Yilin breezed through the agility test, predictably snagging another perfect score without breaking a sweat. Yilin then gracefully sailed through the explosive power assessment, achieving yet another flawless score with comical ease. From the monitoring room, Chief Examiner Lin Yuan mumbled that the student seemed to be using some sort of forbidden technique, noting that surviving past the age of 25 would be a minor miracle. The junior examiner piped up, asking Chief Examiner Lin if they should consider raising the difficulty settings for the final round just for this particular student. Lin Yuan then swiveled his head to consult with the supervisor for her official ruling on the matter. Su Changxin immediately rejected the notion, explaining that forbidden spellcasters pay for their power with their lifespans, meaning the Supreme Academy would only be foolishly investing resources in someone who won last. Real if, that's such a shame, Lin Yuan sighed softly, his eyes clearly reflecting a deep sense of missed opportunity. Once all the tests were finished, Yilin and the remaining examinees gathered in the designated final assembly zone. Jai Linyu excitedly rushed over to Yilin, shouting, "Hey big bro, I got a score of 96 points, so I am absolutely certain I made the cut." Yilin casually inquired why he didn't achieve a perfect score, prompting Jai Linyu to dejectedly admit he failed to perform well during the combat assessment. Lin Yuan started to read out the rankings, announcing first place Yilin with 100 points, followed closely by second place Yujinini, also with 100 points. The female examiner declared that anyone scoring below 85 points needed to immediately exit, while everyone remaining would move on to the final round. Yujinini immediately raised an objection, demanding to know why she was ranked behind that obnoxious Yilin, despite both of them achieving perfect scores. Her complaints ignited a debate among the crowd, but Lin Yuan cut through the noise with a roar, demanding silence and telling everyone to look at the big screen. The screen displayed a video replay of Yujinini skillfully engaged in combat with a Mo Yan Lang monster. But immediately afterward, the entire assembly gasped in shock as an examiner shouted out that Yulin had managed to dispatch a Mo Yanlang in under a single second. The footage then slowed down, highlighting the distinct moment when Jujinini required several seconds to finally finish off her opponent. In absolute contrast, Yulin simply stood there completely motionless while the monster behind him inexplicably disintegrated into fine dust. Everyone who had just been protesting fell absolutely silent, utterly incapable of uttering another word after witnessing the overwhelmingly obvious disparity in power. Lin Yuan coldly turned back around, his voice echoing through the silent space as he sarcastically asked if anyone else wanted to question the results of the final exam. The female examiner announced that contestants scoring over 85 points had 30 minutes to rest and prepare themselves for the upcoming tournament. Meanwhile, the elders were discussing excitedly, noting that first and second place both came from King Cheng Academy, meaning Principal Su really struck gold this year. Principal Su let out a hearty laugh, proudly boasting that fourth place Jai Lingyu was also a student from his academy. Another elder quickly cautioned him not to celebrate prematurely, reminding him that the tournament was the actual main event, but Principal Su remained completely confident in his level 18 forbidden arts prodigy. 30 minutes later, Yulin and Jujinini found themselves face to face in the center of the arena. That haughty young lady announced, "Well, I definitely plan on kicking your butt during this grand competition." Yulin wondered what kind of mischief she was planning. Precisely when the announcer signaled the opening ceremony, guidelines surfaced, revealing a brutal sudden death bracket for 104 players, where random chance chose every fight. Matching tables appeared, putting slot 18 Yulin against number 80 on ring 6, making Jai Lingyu jump with glee. "My eldest brother, please crush them," Jai Lingyu screamed, while Yulin flashed a very smug, toothy grin, wandering onto the sandy battlefield, confronting a 10th tier puddle splash-alike Bei. The 18th tier expert Yulin suggested, "Buddy, just quit while you are ahead. Fat chance, stop treating me like a weakling." Bei snapped, though Yulin just grinned, liking her feisty spirit. Suddenly, the jagged spark of sapphire lightning danced off the tip of Yulin's pointer finger. The whole stadium became trapped inside a spooky, crackling vortex of thunder that he conjured from thin air. Inside the buzzing storm, a giant lizard of pure bolts appeared, roaring like a hungry monster. Everyone watching went completely silent, their complexions turning as white as cheap paper due to the scary view. Standing in the middle, Yulin stretched his arm forward, getting ready to finish this little play session. The referee screamed in a total panic, "Listen up, Yulin. Ordering people is strictly against the school rules." "I am not trying to commit a crime," Yulin whispered coolly. "Just forcing her to wave the white flag is enough." Confronted by such scary magic, poor Bei lost her marbles, falling onto the floor and crying like a lost toddler. People started gossiping, with one guy complaining, "That dude is a monster, he made a pretty girl weep in public." Yulin adjusted his spectacles with zero emotion, muttering, "Dear friend, you really should have just walked away sooner." The lady judge shouted while a shaky Bei was carried off. Player 18 named Yulin takes the first victory. Yulin exhaled, choosing to spy on different fights. "Such a pity. Let me check if anyone else is actually strong." Across the way, the girl wearing crimson robes bragged, "You have zero chance of beating me today." In another spot, a kid holding a black stick joked, "Pathetic loser like you actually wants to fight me." Simultaneously, a massive meathead was crushing some poor guy, laughing, "Power, I have never felt this much power before." All primary duels reached their end, plus every victor name was shouted throughout the entire room. The lady official hollered, kicking off the subsequent phase. Part 2 of this brawl is now formally underway. Yulin's fresh challenger, a guy named Chen Changshan, remarked, "Fighting you might actually be a giant pain in the neck." However, he grabbed his courage back, conjuring a circle of floating blades. "Ed, I will still be the champion today." Yulin gripped the handle of his weapon, suspicious of the guy's arrogance. "I better stay focused or I might lose." Suddenly, Chen Changshan hollered words that were totally unexpected. "I officially quit this match." He shoved his palm toward the sky, proudly announcing his resignation while everyone watched in total disbelief. Yulin stood frozen, mouth open, wondering if the victory promise was just a big lie. The fellow spun around and left the scene immediately. Tossing a lazy hand up, he muttered that vengeance tastes better cold. They would meet later. The lady official mumbled the results, announcing that lucky contestant 18, Yulin, had somehow won. The audience was vibrating with gossip, as nobody wanted to mess with a guy using taboo tricks. Round 3 started, but the challenger was even lazier, shouting for the judge to count him out. The protagonist started fuming, complaining that he had not even moved a muscle before the coward quit. Other students grumbled that the dude breezed through 3 levels using one scary move, making finals look pathetic. Over a different ring, a much more violent struggle was starting to get real. A 14th rank polearm user called Liu Jun fought a 13th rank ruby blade specialist named Wang Zhengwen. Wang talked trash about Liu losing, but Liu just snapped back that he lacked actual combat talent. The spectators were basically shaking, seeing what happens when 2 actual powerhouses decide to delete each other. This brutal fight was shown on a giant monitor, making sure everyone on campus witnessed the carnage. The lady instructor asked her colleague Su for a prediction, and the man grunted that Liu would win. Right on cue, Liu used a shadowy lunge technique that moved much faster than a hungry predator. The opponent failed his defense, catching a heavy blow and flying backward while howling in pure agony. His blade literally exploded into glitter, marking a total defeat. Yulin heard he got another freebie, sighing that winning without effort was getting extremely stale. The sudden shout on the speakers made the boy perk up, finally finding something worth his attention. Upcoming combat pitted a loyal Yahello against the fiery Ju Janine. Ju stared him down, demanding to know what treat Yulin gave him for such obedience. Jai shouted with pride, telling her she would feel stupid once his brother's true power was finally revealed. Mocking his stupidity, Ju summoned a massive explosion of spicy phoenix flames. The boy looked terrified, realizing her heat-based spells went off without any warning. He did a frantic backflip, barely avoiding a rain of spicy meatballs aimed at him. Clenching his jaw, he calculated that a melee fight versus a mage meant zero room for error. The girl smirked like a predator, asking him how long he could dance before getting toasted. She unleashed a giant fire tornado, trapping her rival inside a swirling oven. Pushed into a corner, the boy bellowed that if he could not run, he would just attack. Channeling every bit of muscle, he swung his blade in a desperate strike at the fire's heart. The mighty swipe ripped apart the blaze, leaving Yahello posing like a model in the smoke. Although looking like he lost a fight with a blender, he gasped out a promise to keep swinging. Yahello just grinned, turned a leaf in her magic diary, and whispered that he was a total moron. Crimson flowers flooded the stage, yet Yulin watched from the side, grinning at his student's undying devotion. Some official screamed that the boy had lost his marbles, ordering the rescue squad to get ready. The young man's shadow got swallowed whole by that massive pile of spicy orange death. Suddenly, the charred dude walked out of the inferno, making Yahello ask if he had a death wish. Lin Yu showed up looking like a gothic marshmallow, aimed his blade, and told her this was her only chance. He snarled with a gaze that could cut glass, saying messing with him was fine but touching his bro was fatal. Completely spent, the boy hit the dirt exactly when Yulin sprinted toward the combat zone. The referee waved his arms, shouting for the doctors to bring a stretcher. Yulin grabbed his chest right away, telling him to stay alive while using the yin ring to save his heart. Lurking in the back, the girl muttered sadly that she never expected him to be such a drama king. They hauled him off on a bed, but the kid still found the breath to tell his mentor to stay strong. The glowing display revealed upcoming bracket rounds, featuring a duel between the girl and Lin Linglin while the mentor prepared for Liu Jun. Up in the stands, the UK boss bragged that Liu Jun was a prodigy who would definitely crush the competition. The witness disagreed while someone told Principal Gao to keep his ego in check before the match ended. Su had to play babysitter and told them to shut up because the fight was finally starting. On the combat stage, the 14-level spear-wielding dragon warrior mentioned that he finally cornered his rival. Aiming his pointy stick, he announced that taking down Yulin would make him the smartest kid in school. Yulin just glared, asking if he was joking. The second the bell rang, the spear guy screamed and rushed forward, telling Yulin to start apologizing immediately. The hero parried the strike easily, wondering aloud how many hits the bullet could take from his special blade. Liu was shocked that a magic nerd could fight up close, but Yulin just asked if he lived under a rock. Then, the protagonist unleashed a massive swing using his super secret life training technique to show who was boss. He kept the pressure on, promising to demonstrate why you should never mess with a master of forbidden lore. The spear boy was sweating buckets while trying not to die under the weight of those heavy attacks. The audience started whispering, wondering why on earth the sorcerer was refusing to cast any actual spells. A sharp-eyed witness yelled that the life sword skill was a cursed technique trading years of life for hitting power. Old man Gao looked terrified, but Su reminded him that the party wasn't over until the fat lady sang. Yulin kept up the pressure on his stubborn foe, causing Liu Jun to realize that without a miracle, he would definitely lose. Suddenly, Liu Jun crunched a secret pill with wild eyes, shouting that Yulin had forced him to get nasty. Gloomy vibes exploded as he swung a massive, chattery punch like a literal goth nightmare. With dark noodles binding the blade, Liu Jun smirked, asking if Yulin thought he was the only one using illegal magic. Yulin caught on, realizing his foe used a nasty forbidden magic sticker. Liu Jun bounced into the sky to launch his illegal move called Shadow Dragon Meteor, yelling for Yulin to just die. A beam of pure darkness sipped through Yulin's chest, which looked extremely painful. A massive boom shook the arena, confirming Liu Jun's edgy Shadow Blast had successfully ventilated his rival. Yulin's sword slipped from his hand, stabbing into the dirt like an expensive Lorn dart. Icy black sludge leaked from the wound, suggesting a very bad day. Having been skewered by a shadowy pole, Yulin let out one tiny squeak of agony before things went south. Your expiration date is now, so stop breathing, Liu Jun said with the warmth of a frozen steak. The crowd went silent, assuming that Liu Jun had officially secured the championship trophy. Liu Jun popped another dangerous sticker, making people whisper about whether he was trying to delete himself along with his rival. The pair of judges looked panicked, noting that Yulin was currently flirting with a reaper and needed urgent medical help. Principal Gao throttled his rival, questioning if old man Su had a soul, though Su just irked that the gold medal belonged to UK. The lady in the crimson outfit thought that Liu Jun's illegal cheating was too fast even for her own fancy dodging skills. While she looked bummed out, Dude Changsing stood tall and told her to chill because the brawl was far from finished. Catching his breath, Liu Jun laughed, taunting that being level 80 meant nothing since he was currently face down in the dirt. Who said I was finished? Yilin's voice boomed from the shadows, hitting Liujun a massive heart attack. I poked a hole in your heart and you're still working. Liujun shrieked, as Yilin rose wrapped in spicy red mist. You cannot slay a master of the dark arts, Yilin claimed, using illegal immortality and blue fire to fix his wound. The spectators were absolutely flabbergasted, wondering if this dude was secretly a vampire or just allergic to dying from heart stabs. The judge noted he traded years of life for a cheat code against death, then used items while staying way too chill. Yilin lifted his palm to collect some spicy static electricity, looking frosty as he announced it was his turn. Using illegal world-ending sparkies, he called down giant bolts of electricity that looked like God was mad. Liujun couldn't do anything as he got swallowed by the spicy thunder and tossed into the air like a ragdoll. Liujun wailed in pure agony, claiming this reality was impossible. His body simply evaporated within the angry, bright yellow zaps. Two spectators stood stunned, shouting that it was absolute nightmare fuel. The examiner pulled in the unconscious Liujun, announced, Yilin wins. Somebody get a medical team over here immediately. Yilin felt the focused stares of the principals from a distance, particularly one who wore an almost smug grin. Suddenly, he dramatically collapsed, coughing up a theatrical spray of blood, initiating his Academy Award-winning performance. An elder panicked, exclaiming, Blast it, Dour. Yilin's forbidden technique just spectacularly backfired. We're in big trouble. Yilin thought to himself, I absolutely must sell this performance, or else everyone will suspect the elaborate prank I am pulling. Principal Su erupted in fury, screaming, I demand to file a complaint. This is obviously an act of premeditated murder. Yahello Su. After a rapid exchange of heated accusations, they threatened, Dao Zhenyu. This whole incident will be reported directly to the Ministry of Education. Yilin slumped down with an exhausted sigh, realizing this exam was proving to be far more stressful than actually killing Ken-sen. He sensed another presence approaching, muttering to himself, seriously, more problems already. I just want a nap. Zhuge Nini approached him, offering, Yilin, I can wait for you to recover completely before we begin our duel. They looked up and coldly replied, no thanks. Half an hour later, the fighting stage was prepared for the climactic, final confrontation. Zhuge Nini solemnly declared, the conclusive round officially commences right now. She warned herself internally, I must avoid getting hit by his forbidden technique at all costs. Yilin, meanwhile, was mentally struggling, trying to figure out how to strike without causing severe physical harm to his opponent. Zhuge Nini didn't hesitate, unleashing her signature ultimate move, the blazing phoenix flame. Yilin didn't flinch or pause, swinging his weapon and charging straight into the middle of the raging inferno. Utilizing a forbidden technique called swift dance, Yilin skillfully avoided countless attacks with graceful, almost biotic movements. The crowd was buzzing with speculation, some guessing he was exhausted, others believing he was purposely going easy on Zhuge Nini. Zhuge Nini roared in frustration, demanding if Yilin only knew how to avoid everything, and accusing him of insulting her. Despite her furious provocation, Yilin remained composed, casually dodging yet another large fireball. He retorted nonchalantly, asking if there was some rule that specifically forbade him from dodging. Fine, Zhuge Nini growled, raising her grimoire, let SCU try and evade this particular move. Smart guy. The colossal torrent of flames known as the Crimson Flame overwhelming heaven surged forward. Yilin stood in the center of the fiery deluge, thinking, this foolish girl is surprisingly persistent. I suppose I have to teach her a lesson now. He concentrated power into his legs, activating a skill designed specifically for boosting speed. In the blink of an eye, Yilin launched himself into the air, soaring completely over the approaching fire wave. Zhuge Nini froze in shock, thinking, that's ridiculously fast. Immediately following, Yilin's chilling blade materialized at her throat from the rear. UV lost, he stated dispassionately, as Zhuge Nini frustratingly uttered his name in defeat. Her face flushed with shame, tears beginning to well up in her eyes. How dare you do that? I will absolutely end you. She launched a massive wave of magic, shoving Yilin backward as she screamed, I refuse to be beaten by a despicable jerk like you. Yilin easily caught the incoming fire, his expression displaying clear irritation. This foolish girl is clearly delusional and arrogant. If you think you're so good at dodging. Zhuge Nini sneered, releasing a countless torrent of talismans. Let us see you try to evade this. An overwhelming pressure instantly consumed the entire arena, shocking all observers and even surprising Yilin. The talismans quickly transformed into gigantic, roaring tornadoes made of fire. Without a single second of hesitation, Yilin sprinted directly into the heart of the fiery caves. Yilin realized with a jolt that the fire dragons were following his every move. A homing skill? How interesting. Even though he was moving at top speed, the fiery maelstrom remained right on his heels. Zhuge Nini gasped, completely out of breath, yet still managed to growl, annoying pest, just give up already. His response was a challenging smirk, surrender, or are you talking to yourself? In the blink of an eye, Yilin darted past his rival, leaving the now powerless fire dragons far behind him. He reappeared behind the girl, his voice frigid, using tracking skills against a speed type opponent is no different than complete self-sabotage. Javanini froze in astonishment as she heard his explanation. That's a very simple concept. Didn't they teach you that in basic training? Trapped within the Firestorm-S containment, Yulin issued an ultimatum. Surrender now, and stop this spell. Tears streamed down her face, but she gritted her teeth tightly and shot back. Keep dreaming. She shrieked in desperation. I won't lose to you, even if we both have to die here. In the stance, Juj Kyansing panicked, shouting, Manish, don't be reckless, while another examiner quickly ordered, hurry up and prepare a rescue team immediately. In the center of the stadium, both individuals stood completely still within the eye of the storm, creating an atmosphere thick with intense tension. Yulin completely lost his patience, muttering, what a truly insane woman. Without a second thought, he lunged forward and firmly grabbed Jujinini's arm. Clamping down tightly on her, Yulin roared a single word as a dark magic circle erupted. Sacrifice. Instantly, an enormous black shadow descended forcefully from the sky, landing directly in the arena. It was the ultimate forbidden defense technique, known as the Wailing Great Wall. The eyes of the carved stone lion heads on the wall glowed brightly, indicating the resurgence of an ancient power. The gates of hell opened up, immediately consuming all of the roaring fire dragons. The examiners stood stunned in disbelief, one shouting in horror, the Wailing Wall, how could a contestant possibly cast such a forbidden technique? Yulin exhaled deeply in relief, thinking, I am lucky I unlocked this forbidden spell, otherwise I wouldn't know what to do next. He walked over to the bewildered Jujinini and said, don't just stand there. Best, your hair looks like a bird's nest. The sudden remark caused Jujinini's heart to pound, making her think, maybe he isn't quite as hateful as I initially believed. The entire audience in the stands began chattering loudly amongst themselves. They were all convinced that Yulin was simply dodging his opponent because he was too afraid to hurt her. But then, Yulin abruptly unleashed a devastating kick, telling his opponent to get down because he was a champion. Jujinini was sent flying through the air, landing in a pile of dust on the arena floor while the examiners looked on in disbelief. The entire crowd gasped, completely unable to process the shock of the sudden turn of events. The high-ranking elders and principals were left wide-eyed at the sudden, merciless change of fortune. Tucked away in a corner of the bleachers, Juj Kyansing buried his face in his hands, completely mortified by his knees. Humiliated, Jujinini struggled to sit upright while promising, through gritted teeth, that this feud was far from over. Ignoring the threats, the examiner raised his hand high and declared Yulin as this year's top scorer with 150 points. As the crowd chanted top scorer, Yulin finally let out a sigh of relief, realizing the ordeal was completely finished. The classmate approached him, eager to inquire which prestigious academy the newly crowned top scorer intended to enroll in. Without even blinking, he confidently announced his intention to join the ranks of the elite Supreme Academy. The whole crowd erupted into a chaotic frenzy, celebrating his choice of the most prestigious institution in the land. But a severe-looking woman appeared, effectively dousing everyone's excitement by telling Yulin he would not be allowed to enroll. Yulin spun around, his expression shifting from victorious to utterly bewildered, questioning the harsh decision. The representative cruelly explained that forbidden technique users expire quickly and, therefore, provide absolutely zero value for future cultivation. Taking in the harsh news, Yulin simply bowed his head in bitter resignation, murmuring that he understood the situation. The voice from the murmuring crowd chimed in, pointing out that forbidden technique masters truly have short lifespans, so no institution would invest in training them. Hold on, the powerful, authoritative voice suddenly echoed, interrupting the somber and hopeless mood. Juj Kyansing stepped forward with assurance, looking directly at Ms. Su and suggesting he possibly had a solution to her dilemma. The male companion accompanying the representative looked quite startled, asking Juj exactly what he was implying. Yulin is my student, Juj Kyansing announced, claiming he discovered a technique to significantly reduce the risks associated with using forbidden techniques. Principal Gao and the male companion asked in perfect synchronization, completely shocked. The Juj's claims were factual. The representative, Su Kyansing, skeptically challenged Juj, noting his expertise in astrology and knowledge of career advancements. Juj Kyansing advised Chongson not to allow their past connection to hinder a young genius, but she retorted that the Supreme Academy simply doesn't accept forbidden technique users. The girl in the crowd started whispering if there were historical rumors between Juj and Miss Su, while her neighbor angrily declared that Miss Su was absolutely heartless. Noticing the escalating tension, Yulin intervened, telling his master to relax, since missing a single academy wasn't the end of the world. Suddenly, the figure lunged forward to attack Juj Kyansing, sneering at Yulin for such casual arrogance over one mere academy. Juj Chang yelled a warning to Yulin, realizing his disciple was rushing forward to block the incoming attack on his behalf. Lightning fast, Yulin shoved his sword handle forward to parry the surprise ambush, saving his face from an unwanted massage. Identify yourself, Yulin barked with a vibrating palm, feeling like he just tried to high-fly the runaway freight train. The assailant smirked, mocking him as a taboo skill expert destined to blow away like dandruff in a summer breeze. Listen up, Junior, the Spug Golden, Paid Jerk bragged, explaining that the legend thrashing him was young Guanlu from that fancy Supreme Academy. Calm down, Guanlu, Su Kyansing cautioned, threatening that further bullying would result in a soul-crushing 1,000 Page apology letter for homework. Wang Lu acted shocked, claiming he only wanted to say hi to the teacher, but the boy was apparently made of wet cardboard. Principal Gao sprinted over to check if the kid was still breathing, receiving a stoic, quiet reassurance that he was fine. Ignoring the insults, Yilin's icy stare promised that the specific afternoon encounter would be etched into his vengeful mental notebook. Wang Lu chuckled at the saltiness, asking if he wanted a second helping of defeat or an open invitation to lose again. Yilin stayed cool, noting that the crowd saved the jerk today, but a future payback date was definitely being scheduled. Wang Lu exploded with obnoxious cackling, calling him a dumpster fire that could never win a match before he died. Yilin narrowed his vision and proposed a lethal duel in 12 months, asking if the bull actually had the guts. Old man Jude jumped in while onlookers stood paralyzed, begging the hard-headed youth to stop making such suicidal social plans. Spurning the warning, Yilin doubled down on his ultimatum while staring holes through his rival, demanding a final answer. Wang Lu folded his limbs and agreed with a smirk, welcoming the chance to schedule a funeral for his rival next year. With a pact sealed, Yilin worked off plotting to dismantle that whole Supreme Academy like a set of cheap plastic blocks. Returning home, Dao slapped his back while the crowd roared, celebrating that King Shen Academy finally birthed a genuine academic beast. Later, Yilin checked on Juge Nini, and Juge King promised her mood would improve once she recovered her spirits. Yilin got straight to business, asking about the secret romantic history between the old master and the lovely Chengxin. The old man let out a weary groan and massaged his temples, confessing that the woman was actually his original romantic harpy. The memory showed a youthful Su Changxin, appearing remarkably wholesome and looking as clean as a whistle. Yilin froze, absolutely gobsmacked by the insane news he just heard regarding his master's past. Dazed, the boy stuttered that the pair shared absolutely zero romantic chemistry or visual compatibility together. The veteran detailed their messy breakup caused by clashing vibes and her failed attempt to restart things after half a decade. Yilin pried for the ending of the drama, but the mentor lamented that Nini was already in the picture by then. Following the tragic tale of misconnections, Yilin let out a dry chuckle regarding the unfortunate timing of their romance. The father promised his girl that her skills were enough for the Supreme Academy if she simply gave it her all. The mother advised the boy that Daxir Academy would be the most logical future destination for his specific career path. The master told the youngsters to hit the hay, since the university scouts would be hunting for talent at sunrise tomorrow. When the sun rose, the campus transformed into a chaotic zoo of fans desperate to worship the local legends of the town. The master Gal acted as the bridge, introducing Yilin and the sassy Nini to Governor Hu and Su from the High Academy. Without wasting a second, Su Changxin officially begged Nini to join the prestigious ranks of their legendary school. Clutching her shiny pass, Nini bragged that she finally managed to wipe the floor with her rival. Gao grabbed the kid with shaking hands, dragging him toward the leader to claim a fat 5 million paycheck. Governor Hu Yang gave the boy a firm handshake, noting that the genius actually looked quite impressive in person. Drowned by the blinding lights of dozens of cameras, the boss shared his massive hopes for the champion. Yilin grinned like a shark, asking when the millions would arrive, since growing up broke made him terrified of empty pockets. At the leader's command, 2 ladies delivered the prizes, including a magical skill scroll that shocked the young man. The treasure haul consisted of 5 million, a customizable epic skill manual, and a pass to the restricted zone. Yilin was floored to discover the restricted zone was for elites only, offering total protection from any physical harm. He imagined hitting level 99 without a scratch, but the headmaster ruined his daydream before it even started. Hu Yun presented a fresh challenge, demanding the boy bring the national championship trophy back to their humble city. Gao added that whoever conquers the deepest part of the zone becomes the country's top dog with better prizes. With eyes turning into dollar signs, the boy swore on his life that he would be the national winner. The 2 leaders couldn't hide their smug faces while snapping a quick group photo with their golden ticket boy. Just before leaving, the old master shared some vital wisdom with the kid. Avoid using any spells that trade your literal life for power inside the secret zone. Yilin nodded, realizing that while the zone stops bruises, it definitely doesn't stop the gray hairs from coming. The teacher mentioned some urgent business in the nearby town, telling his student to play it safe and smart. The boy told his mentor to relax, promising he would handle himself perfectly. Entering the massive city of Shenzhen, the young traveler felt like a lost puppy among the glowing neon towers. He wandered toward his assigned room, where a female receptionist was already waiting for him. Introducing herself as Bailin, she acted with grace while showing him the way to his luxury suite upstairs. She mentioned that the magical portal wasn't active yet, giving him plenty of time to catch up on sleep. After tossing his heavy backpack onto the mattress, Yulin felt like a total king. Holding his golden ticket, he wondered if he should go find a snack or explore the giant concrete jungle. Just as he reached for the doorknob to leave, he realized the heavy thing was completely stuck. Suddenly, a loud bang on the door startled him, making the poor boy jump. The hero jumped when someone kicked the door in with extreme force. A blonde girl with a serious temper marched in, asking why there were strangers loitering inside her private bedroom. The girl offered Yulin absolutely no chance to explain himself, immediately grabbing his shirt collar and screaming, "You strange man, why are you brazenly standing in my bedroom?" In an instant, she channeled mystical energy directly into her fist, bellowing at him, "Prepare yourself for a necessary lesson." Yulin was completely taken aback by the sudden, powerful, and entirely unprovoked assault. The following punch was devastating, sending him flying rapidly backward through the air. The door behind him completely shattered into splinters, utterly destroyed by the force of the collision. "You're fast, damn weirdo," the girl growled, while Yulin, utterly confused, quickly tried to clarify. "Wait, you are completely mistaken. I am definitely not a weirdo. I don't believe your obvious lies. Now perish," the girl shrieked, refusing to listen to a single word of his explanation. Realizing that talking was useless, Yulin decided to take action. "It appears I have no alternative but to make my move, sacrificing my appendix in the process." Immediately, countless colossal wooden binds burst into existence from thin air, casting a forbidden art, the wood realm, to encircle the girl. "What in the world is this nonsense?" She panicked, struggling fiercely but completely unable to escape the grasp. "Why can't I break free from this?" Yulin casually strolled closer, teasing her. "Stop struggling so hard. This forbidden technique was specifically created for containing unruly lollies exactly like you." To finally resolve the misunderstanding, we held out a room key card, stating, "This is room 6099. This is my card. Go ahead and examine it for yourself." The girl still appeared skeptical, confidently asserting, "No way, because my room card also says 6099. Yulin retracted the forbidden art, causing the massive vines to quickly dissolve into streams of shimmering magical energy. He stood there with his arms folded, fleshly suggesting, "If you truly don't believe me, then just go and look." The girl fumbled around for her own card and immediately froze in place when she looked down at the number on its surface. How did it suddenly change to 6,609? She mumbled in confusion, and Yulin pointed out the extremely simple explanation. "Could it possibly be because you're holding it upside down?" Realizing her incredibly silly mistake, the girl pressed her hands together apologetically. "I'm sorry, it was entirely my fault for acting so rashly." She offered to compensate him with a meal, but Yulin declined and instead invited her. "I was actually about to go for a casual stroll. Would you care to join me?" As the city's sunset began to fade, the girl curiously asked about Yulin's capabilities. "By the way, what exactly is your profession?" She confidently introduced herself. "My name is Maizu, the top graduate from Heicheng, an SSS-Rank berserker." Yulin simply responded, "Thor, I am from Qingcheng." Maizu immediately deduced, "Then you must have been accepted into the Supreme Academy." "Correct," but she received an unexpected response. "They actually don't need me." To Maizu's utter astonishment, Yulin explained with a sense of fatalism, "That is my destined fate, to be a short-lived master of forbidden arts." Hearing the strange words forbidden art master, Maizu fell completely silent, completely unsure of what to say next. To relieve the heavy awkwardness in the air, Yulin decided to treat Maizu to a genuinely delicious meal. The two arrived at Shenzhen's most well-known restaurant, a truly luxurious and splendid establishment. Suddenly, a sarcastic voice cut through the air. "Maizu, a complete brute like you somehow managed to find a man to eat with." Maizu spun around furiously, growling out the name of the newcomer. Inining. Inining hooked her arm around a menace, continuing her taunts. Wolf, it appears you are desperately seeking affection now." She then turned her gaze to Yulin, uttering provocative words that caused Maizu to finally lose her temper completely. "Inining, just get lost." Brushing off the others, Inining leaned in, trying to charm Yulin, purring the handsome Dolan should ditch this place and come along. Yulin, ever the charmer, fully shot back, requesting she simply keep her distance because her breath was quite weaponized. Maishu erupted in a fit of uncontrollable giggles, finding the honesty hilarious, while Yining's face, let us just say it looked like she de-swallowed a lemon. Her beautiful face contorted, and she hissed he was an insolent child, as she had already offered him an opportunity. Yulin, completely dismissing her, nudged Maishui to depart, explaining they should go since the air quality was plummeting faster than his interest. Just as they turned to make their getaway, a rather imposing foot abruptly materialized, blocking their path. Enter Wushaki, the self-proclaimed level 22 angel paladin, who dramatically planted himself before them, declaring they would apologize to his lady. Post-haste, he delivered a withering glare at Yulin, then sneered, stating honestly nothing got his goat more than discovering impoverished, uncultured raff slithering from the sewers. Inining, ever the opportunist, immediately began batting her eyelashes with exaggerated coyness, while poor Maishui visibly blanched, instantly recognizing their opponent's alarming true power. Yulin, completely unfazed, simply offered a dazzling smile, remarking it was funny because a humble, financially challenged individual such as himself absolutely detested spoiled, arrogant trust fund babies like him. Enraged, Wushaki let out a primal bellow that shook the chandeliers, dramatically unfurling gigantic angelic wings and unleashing a blinding, brilliant torrent of holy light. Not one to be upstaged, Yulin decided it was his turn to glow, blue energy surging around him in an impressive display, his eyes blazing with competitive glint. Right there, amidst the stunned diners and flying silverware, two SSS class powerhouses seemed poised to ignite an earth shattering, table flipping, absolutely catastrophic brawl. Just as things were getting interesting, an investigator, clearly a professional mood pillar, materialized out of thin air, sternly reminding them that transferred professionals were absolutely not allowed to fight within city limits. Mai Shui frantically intervened, grabbing Yilin's arm, whispering urgently they should hold their horses. The top scorer's secret realm was about to open, and picking a fight with these clowns here wasn't worth it. Wu Shaiki, clearly peeved by the lack of a proper showdown, dramatically pointed a finger at Yilin, knowing he would remember that mug of theirs and advising him not to cross his path in the secret realm. Yining, clinging to her boyfriend's arm like a barnacle, spun back for one last, utterly predictable insult, shrieking triumphantly that they should just wait, calling them trash. Once the dramatic duo had finally flounced off, Mai Shui hung her head, mumbling an apology, saying she was terribly sorry for dragging him into another one of her messes. Yilin, thoroughly curious, then inquired who that ray of sunshine was, and why she seemed to harbor such, shall we say, specific hostility. Mai Shui let out a weary sigh, dropping a bombshell family secret, confessing she was actually her half sister, and apparently, she had always been her personal human splendor. Yilin, ever adept at changing the subject, smoothly brushed off her apology, declaring it was fine, since he had suddenly developed a tactical hunger and they should go find some food. 3 days later, within a colossal plaza, a magnificent spatial gate dramatically cracked open right in the midair, much to everyone's amazement. Literally countless drones buzzed around like metallic, nosy beasts, diligently recording every single, momentous, frame, wordy second of the entire spectacle. The dignified, white-haired gentleman then strode forth, his voice resonating impressively, booming greetings to the esteemed top scorers, introducing himself as Janganshi, their official fun pillar, immense supervisor, for this event. Amidst the bustling crowd, Yilin, with a touch of surprise, asked Mai Shui why she had packed provisions for a small, very hungry battalion. The young man gazed at the veritable mountain of sustenance Mai Shui had assembled, a sudden, inexplicable warmth spreading through his usually pragmatic heart, and he conceded he now understood. Supervisor Janganshi, clearly relishing his moment, then began the mandatory announcement of the rules, declaring that before they were unleashed into the secret realm, a few minor formalities needed covering. He meticulously laid out the inaugural regulation, clarifying that within the secret realm, participants were magically immune to fatal boos, but they must be perfectly patched up before clocking out. Janganshi dramatically extended both hands, and the atmosphere grew heavier, intoning gravely the second, truly thrilling, regulation. Suddenly, a rather vivid, unsettling image materialized, and he advised with a cheerful shrug that should they misplace a limb, they must collect it and present it to a priest for reattachment. Like a misplaced sock, Yilin and Masui, nestled within the throng, found their faces shifting into grave masks as the rather sanguinary regulations were unveiled. With a chilling grin, Janganshi wrapped things up, kindly suggesting they avoid becoming monster chow, adding a delightful thought about being fully digested in a beast's belly. Yilin, ever the strategist, mulled over the secret realm's guidelines, but Masui, on the other hand, was practically vibrating with terror at the thought of becoming beast bait. From the elevated stage, Janganshi offered his parting pearls of wisdom to the top contenders, then bellowed a command for the teleportation gate to swing wide open. Suddenly, a massive, reality bending portal yawned open, and the supervisor's booming voice rang out, granting everyone a mere 10 minutes to scramble for companions. Masui, with the speed of a caffeinated squirrel, proposed they buddy up, to which Yilin, with a mischievous twinkle, responded, sure, but you re my personal pack mule. The enthusiastic berserker gal, without missing a beat, gleefully agreed, proudly asserting that such a trifling load was no more than a feather in her mighty hands. Out of nowhere, the muscular, teal-maned fellow interjected, bellowing accusations at Yilin for his utterly unchivalrous act of burdening a sweet young lady with strenuous labor. He then smoothly pivoted to Masui, extending a hand and charmingly soliciting her to join his squad, vowing she wouldn't need to so much as wiggle a pinky. To everyone's astonishment, Masui utterly detonated into a furious whirlwind, her lethal aura practically shimmering. Tnalin, scram before I rearrange your pretty features with my fist. Elsewhere, the imperious Yiningning was regally assembling recruits for Wu Shaiki's exclusive squad, setting a rather lofty entry bar of at least level 20. In the midst of the ensuing pandemonium, that tressed Romeo found himself launched considerable distances after receiving a rather persuasive argument from Mai Shui's knuckles. Wu Shaiki then theatrically positioned himself directly before Yilin, his tone dripping with condescending challenge. So you read the infamous Yilin? Yes, he persisted in sneering and mocking Yilin's supposedly humble, small, town roots, even if he did begrudgingly admit that hitting level 18 was an uncommon feat. Bowed down and performed 3 respectful kowtows. Wu Shaiki declared as his ultimate demand. Otherwise, do not accuse me of harshness once we finally enter the mystic realm. Yilin simply offered a brief, knowing smirk, then delivered a single, succinct utterance. Imbecile. Absolutely seething, Wu Shaiki let out a guttural bellow of expletives and instantly charged into the fray. Janganshi materialized out of thin air, deftly intercepting Wu Shaiki's wild swing and sternly cautioning that his competition eligibility was about to vanish. The supervisor then pivoted towards the expectant audience, proclaiming the Mystic Realm's grand opening, and firmly restating that any rule breaker would face instant expulsion from the event. Wu Shaky impaled Yilin with a venomous stare, a low growl escaping his lips. You just mark my words, our little difference will certainly be resolved. From the throne, the concerned participant fretted, that fellow truly has a screw loose. We absolutely must be wary. To which Yilin calmly countered, relax, I got this handled. Off we go. Bathed in the intense, crimson glow of the activated teleportation portal, Yilin and Mai Shui bravely ventured forth, hand in hand, into the perilous arena of life and doom. Mai Shui's eyes widened in sheer wonder at the Mystic Realm's stunning aesthetics. But Yilin, ever the realist, cautioned, behind this pretty facade hides a very sharp set of teeth. Without a moment's delay, the colossal, level 20 rock creature lumbered into view, prompting Mai Shui to let out an urgent, piercing shriek of alarm. Save your precious energy. I'll take care of this little pebble, Mai Shui declared. Then, utterly embracing her berserker spirit, she launched herself directly into the foe. Ugly monstrosity, I am going to turn you into gravel, she bellowed, before promptly landing a truly bone-shattering blow squarely on the beast's rocky mud. Yilin observed from a safe vantage point, wheezing, that adorable little firecracker truly battles like a hell beast, but my schedule simply doesn't allow for casual monster. Whooshing, sudden, chilling blast of frigid power erupted, instantly pulverizing the stone monster into countless, very small bits. Mai Shui gasped in utter astonishment. The monster instantly vaporized, a feat only achievable by class changer beyond level 25. Spinning around in shock, she questioned the frozen blade-wielding Yilin about his insane strength, to which he replied that he identifies as a forbidden mage. Yilin winced while grabbing his side, thanking the gods for his damage immunity or his poor kidney would have definitely resigned from duty. Masui gave a gesture of approval and noted that forbidden spells require sacrifices, calling the whole bloody process rather hardcore and intense. As the pair ventured further, Yilin warned that the beasts grow nastier with depth, so they should probably keep their eyes peeled. Striking up some small talk, Masui recalled him mentioning that his peculiar status as a forbidden mage was the main reason. After the Supreme Academy swiped left on his application, Yilin groaned about his tragic fate of potentially biting the dust so early. A peaceful grin then crossed his face, since fulfilling his bucket list before the end actually felt like a pretty solid deal. Yilin abruptly stopped, his eyes sharpening as he detected a thick wave of murderous intent lurking nearby. A massive, crimson beetle beast suddenly appeared, its bulky frame blocking out the entire sky above. Surfacing through dirt, a level 25 venomous centipede appeared, hissing in a rather rude and threatening manner. The pair stood shocked, and the girl shouted about the size of the toxic bug, wondering why it was so freaking enormous. The beast charged instantly, moving with a frightening velocity that caught them both completely off guard, but the creature's strike bumped into an unseen barrier, stopping it dead in its tracks. Yilin grabbed Masui and retreated, just barely dodging the incoming impact. Blocking his teammate from danger, he confidently stated that he would take care of this business. Yilin triggered his skill right away, essentially using his own flesh as a battery for the coming destruction. He unleashed a catastrophic world-ending celestial strike, summoning a terrifying wave of blue energy to fry everything. The massive blowback from the forbidden spell knocked both of them several feet backward, through the swirling clouds of debris. A level 22 venomous scorpion decided it was the perfect time to strike. Simultaneously, Masui shrieked as a level 25 bony warrior rushed in, yelling for Yilin to watch his back. Seeing the foes vaporize so quickly, the girl praised his skills, noting that his ability to one-shot everything was scary. Out of nowhere, a hand popped out from the ground, grabbing hold of something quite firmly. Yilin snagged a level 28 abyss ramman during its failed stealth mission, grinning at the creature's pathetic attempt to jump him. Launching the everlasting divine voltage ability, Yilin leapt into the clouds and drenched the ground with a spicy electric storm. Sparkling yellow electric strikes fried the hidden beast into crunchy pieces. The system message popped up, making Yilin celebrate his achievement of at last hitting the big level 20 milestone. Glancing at Yilin's severed arm on the grass, Masui finally understood that his damage immunity in this mystic realm lets him cast forbidden spells without dying. Yilin asked if she was just now catching on, which prompted Masui to giggle and brag about her amazing deduction skills. Checking his character sheet, he thought about how reaching level 20 meant it was finally time to unlock a brand new talent. Yilin finally understood his true potential, giggling to himself as he realized, wait, all my regular spells turn into forbidden spells. That's just hilariously broken. He immediately turned to Masui with wide eyes, demanding, hand over that fireball scroll you grabbed. I need to test something right now. Yilin quickly used the magic scroll, completely brushing aside the system's dire warnings, declaring, relax, it's just a little scientific experiment. A triumphant notification flash, confirming the fireball's transformation into the ridiculously named forbidden spell. Flame God's breath, forcing Yilin to bounce with glee. He conjured a terrifying pitch, black fireball, making Masui gasp in pure astonishment. What on earth is that forbidden spell? It looks absolutely nothing like a normal fire spell. Yilin then proceeded to unleash the full, terrifying might of the dark fireball. The flame god's breath shot forward with all the subtle grace of a freight train carrying dynamite, promising unimaginable destructive power. The resulting earth-shattering explosion completely leveled a significant portion of the surrounding forest. Maisui stared in utter disbelief, thinking, that wasn't a fireball, that was the sun deciding to explode, while Yilin just smiled smugly at his handiwork. Alright, test complete, Yilin announced casually. Time is running out. Let us get back to grinding levels, urging everyone to continue their hunt. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Inining and Wuxaeki were suddenly jolted by the massive tremor. Inining nervously asked, what skill makes that much noise, and why is it so incredibly loud? As Wu Zairoki immediately suspected, did one of the supervisors somehow enter the secret realm? Outside the realm, Zenganshi was staring dumbfounded at his monitoring screen, wondering aloud, what on earth is going on in there? Returning to Yilin, Tianmaizu paused in an open clearing, where he suggested, let us find a place to grab some food first. Suddenly, Yilin stopped dead in his tracks, hiding behind a tree, his expression turning instantly vigilant. His face hardened considerably, suggesting he had just spotted something completely out of the ordinary. Yilin quickly gestured to Maizu, whispering urgently, Maizu, look over there, what exactly is that thing? Right in front of them lay a level 26 treasure toad, sound asleep and holding onto a piece of extremely valuable loot. Yilin quickly laid out the plan. I'll handle the control, and you handle the capture. Understood. The pair crept silently through the dense bushes, inching closer and closer to their unsuspecting target. Once they were in position, Yilin gave Maizu one last whispered confirmation, prepare yourself now. Suddenly, a large group of people burst into the clearing, shouting Yilin's name at the top of their lungs, startling the treasure toad awake. Just do it now, Yilin roared in frustration, hastily casting a skill that sent the treasure toad careening away through the air. The valuable prey disappeared in a blinding flash of light, forcing their meticulously crafted hunting plan to completely fall apart. Maizu furiously punched the ground in anger, while Yilin glared intensely at the newcomers. Who are these people? They completely ruined everything. The teal-haired guy from the group stepped forward to provoke them. As Maizu nervously whispered that she recognized their leader as Wuxiaki, Yilin coldly conjured a very small fireball in his hand, retorting, Don't worry, I'll make sure every single one of you gets to experience this firsthand. The teal-haired guy burst into uncontrollable laughter, scoffing loudly, the fireball? Orlif, you must be completely delusional. However, the small fireball in Yilin's hand suddenly swelled to a ridiculous size, leaving Wuxiaki's entire group absolutely dumbfounded. He then unleashed the forbidden art, flame god's breath, instantly engulfing the arrogant provocateur in a colossal tidal wave of fire. Wuxiaki gasped in shock, yelling at Yilin that harming the nation's precious youngsters was definitely a major social blunder. Stay calm because I provide equal suffering to everyone. Yilin laughed while popping a scroll that summoned a localized blizzard, approaching those shivering cowards while frost formed on his palms. He promised they would suffer the same fate he just endured. A ferocious whirlwind of frozen shards erupted, marking the official beginning of a very chilly beatdown. Those two stared dumbly at the ceiling of frozen spikes, questioning if they had accidentally stumbled into a horror movie. Wu Zairoki screamed about physics while Yining panicked, asking how one Jew could legally juggle both burning and freezing elements. Seeing his foes shaking like wet puppies, Yilin stretched out his palm and invited them to sample his latest work. A massive rain of frozen death fell, targeting the cluster of supposed geniuses who were currently rethinking their life choices together. Sensing his impending doom, Wu Zairoki shrieked a prayer and conjured a shiny yellow barrier shaped like a giant lemon. That freezing gale smashed into the glowing wall with a roar loud enough to wake every nearby sleeping animal. The golden defense started showing cracks like an old cyborg under the extreme sub-zero pressure. This has to be a joke, Wu Zairoki muttered while grinding his teeth, watching his expensive shield turn into sparkly confetti. Cornered and desperate, he funneled every bit of mana into a flashy retaliatory strike, doubting something about a cross-shaped butter knife. A beam of concentrated sparkle sliced the air, carting a path through the screaming winter wonderland. Wu Zairoki tried to inspire his buddies, suggesting they swarm the guy because surely one teenager could not beat him up. The shimmering light blade broke free from the ice, flying at Yilin like a glowing frisbee of doom. Nearby spectators watched the chaos and gossiped about whether the crazy kid was actually taking on a whole squad solo. Yilin just grinned like a villain, whipped out a mysterious card, and promised to show them a trick even more exciting. Suddenly, a massive darkness swallowed the woods, making everyone feel like someone killed the lights. Falling out of those high celestial clouds, one massive flaming rock shrieked earthward using highly illegal velocity. Wu Zairoki stared upward with a face as white as a sheet, questioning if his opponent was actually a cheat code. The crowd finally caught on to the scary reality, whispering that this wasn't some basic rock throwing spell but actual high-level illegal wizardry. The enormous blizzard whipped up by Yilin grew so large it basically occupied the entire mountain range. Trapped in the frozen case, Wuxiaki and Yining were tossed around like laundry in a cold cycle, making uproaric noises. Squeezed like a tube of toothpaste, Wuxiaki yelled about his famous family tree, asking if Yilin really wanted this fight. Yilin offered a wicked grin while flashing his middle finger, telling him to relax because he survived with only minor armor. The horror continued as yet another massive fireball started falling, leaving everyone wondering if the sky had a personal grudge today. The losing team tried one last desperate bluff, asking if Yulin was brave enough to offend their prestigious school. A distant figure stood watching those flailing losers, peering as though he might be pondering his next snack choice. He flashed a knowing smirk. What an unexpected twist of fate. The Supreme Academy had bounced him too, so no awkward class reunions for them. They should absolutely go enjoy themselves. The meteor slammed into the earth with such gusto, it redefined the very meaning of kaboom. The other hapless contestants could only shiver and gasp, utterly horrified. Truly the forbidden spellcaster was a monster, not even close to human. Probably worse. The earth began to quake with alarming ferocity, and an impenetrable curtain of dust swallowed the sky. As the dust evaporated, a contestant just managed to stutter. Wushaiki's entire unlucky ensemble lay perfectly still within a rather impressive crater, completely and utterly defeated. Amidst the desolate landscape, Yulin made a surprisingly graceful descent. Landing softly, he casually gestured to the stunned onlookers. "Pour right Yuzlop, though take these folks for treatment." The remaining horrified bystanders rushed forward, discovering Wushayaki and Yuningning completely submerged in rather chilly puddles of ice. The world is finally quiet," Yulin declared, dusting off his hands before turning to Maizu. "Come on, let us see if we can still snag that elusive treasure toad." Meanwhile, back at the main gathering hub, Supervisor Zhang Ganshi proudly declared, "This year's crop of top scorers possesses some serious oomph." He and his perpetually patient female assistant remained blissfully unaware, scratching their heads about the lack of eliminations, muttering, "It's been ages, and still nobody has shown up here." Just then, the frantic contestant, burdened with an injured companion, burst onto the scene, yelling in sheer panic, "Someone's badly hurt, please, Pweke, come save them." At the assembled point, Denganshi gazed in abject horror at the unconscious Wushayaki, noting the ghastly injuries. Good heavens, did they tangle with a truly high devil monster? "Pastor, get over here and heal them immediately." He whipped around to interrogate the frantic messenger, demanding, what exactly did they stumble upon? What chaos unfolded in the secret realm? The young man could only stammer, They merely ran into a forbidden spellcaster." Denganshi froze solid, his eyes widening like saucers, utterly gasped at the mention of a forbidden spellcaster. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely within the secret realm, Yulin sighed dramatically, staring at the moon. "Darn it, lost the trail, all thanks to those meddling kids. I mean, those guys." By the crackling campfire, Masu inquired, "Yulin, are you truly finished eating now?" Yulin responded, "I am perfectly stocked, and I absolutely need my rest. Tomorrow brings more leveling up." Observing the serenely resting young man, Masu mused to herself, "I've never encountered anyone who grinds experience points as ridiculously fast as him. I really must redouble my efforts." Suddenly, a peculiar noise cut through the night, causing her to jump and look up. The colossal, triple-headed beast, glowing an ominous fiery red, suddenly loomed before them, making Masu shriek in abject horror. Cerberus, the giant dog of doom. The monstrous creature let out an ear-splitting roar, spewing forth a destructive wave of pure energy. "Yulin, look out!" Masu shrieked, as Yulin expertly yanked her out of harm's way, allowing them to narrowly dodge the ensuing explosion. Yulin eyed the behemoth with a flicker of surprise. "Well, looky here, oh hi, devil monster, I suppose." Masu quickly tugged his arm. "No, it's definitely not just a high-level monster." Standing precariously on the lip of her massive crater, Yulin finally processed it. "It's Cerberus. I never imagined such a notoriously terrifying monster would be chilling in the secret realm." He turned to Masu, his expression resolute. "You need to step way back. This particular customer is proving quite difficult to handle." Masu replied with genuine worry, "Just please be careful." All three of Cerberus' imposing heads simultaneously swiveled downwards, observing the rather blazing fireball Yulin had just launched. Without the slightest pause, one of the enormous three heads gaped wide open, clearly preparing for a direct, audacious confrontation with the incoming magic. It just gulped down the fireball whole. The supposed attack only caused a tiny, harmless pop inside the creature's massive maw. Both Yulin and Masu were utterly flabbergasted. Masu stammered, expressing her utter disbelief at how it had just genuinely swallowed the colossal fireball. In an instant, Cerberus launched a vicious counterattack, gushing forth a truly horrifying torrent of phosphorescent green goo. The foul, death-laden fluid, apparently brewed in a particularly nasty cauldron, launched itself directly at the two adventurers. "This ghastly green substance is utterly corrosive," Yulin bellowed, heroically shoving Mai Shui out of harm's way before sidestepping the foul spray himself. Yulin nimbly dodged the bubbling, acidic liquid, which seemed to fizz with malicious glee all around him. Without a moment's pause, the colossal beast then swung its gargantuan claws down, aiming to give his head an unsolicited makeover. "This preyed monster sure are a stubborn bunch," Yulin grumbled under his breath, activating the forbidden spell, Karma Fire, to get a much needed burst of speed. He zipped forward, taunting the creature, "So you enjoy a good meal, do you, beastie? Well, I've got a whole buffet right here for your dining pleasure." The bolt from the heavens, the forbidden spell, eternal lightning, then zeroed in on Cerberus with pinpoint accuracy. The colossal fiend took the hit, the torrent of sickly green energy subsequently erupting through its monstrous form, showing not a single flicker of discomfort. The creature promptly conjured a lethal orb of energy, hovering ominously between its three heads. Two of the three heads let out an utterly deafening, birth, shattering bellow, radiating pure, unadulterated savagery. Another river of the highly corrosive, emerald, hued liquid came spewing out, hurtling directly towards Yulin and Mai Shui. Yulin instinctively raised his hand, summoning the formidable forbidden spell, Wailing Great Wall, to bravely intercept the incoming deluge. Having just shored up their defenses, he swiftly pivoted his strategy, manifesting a lengthy, shimmering spear crafted from solid ice. Perish, Yulin roared with gusto, unleashing the ice spear with every ounce of strength his body possessed. Cerberus took a direct hit, emitting a truly pathetic and utterly mournful shriek of agony. Let us see you try to stomach that one, Yulin remarked chillingly, already setting the stage for the definitive, final strike. A colossal column of pure lightning then descended from the sky like an angry god, completely enveloping both Yulin and the gargantuan monster. Mai Shui watched in utter disbelief as the monster's colossal body began to dissolve, whispering to herself, "It is still alive, somehow. Naur, Brach." Yulin suddenly shrieked, his face etched with pure terror. The creature is attempting to detonate itself. Please, do not let those ominous black flames even graze you, he bellowed, seizing Mai Shui's hand and scrambling away frantically. Both plunged headlong into the dense forest, just as a cataclysmic explosion erupted, swallowing everything in its wake right behind them. Having narrowly cheated death, the Jewer sat panting like overworked puppies, only for a notification announcing a level 36 monster had been vanquished to pop up. After the intense skirmish, Yulin and Mai Shui stumbled upon a surprisingly familiar face. "Lof, it is our favorite treasure, spitting toad from last time." The amphibian coughed up an item, and Mai Shui quickly clarified, "This is dragon scale gold ore, a ridiculously rare ingredient for forging legendary, top-tier gear." Yulin, clearly unpressed, pressed the flat of his sword against the toad's head, growling menacingly, "Now, let us see some more of the Chinese stuff." Chop, chop. However, the very next thing it expelled was merely an ordinary pebble, leaving both of them utterly crestfallen and disappointed. This temper flayed instantly, and Yulin scowled at the toad. "You dare offer me a worthless stone? Disgorge all your hidden treasures immediately." Meanwhile, back at distant encampment, Denganki received a crucial update. Mission accomplished. The complex surgery proved entirely successful. He graciously thanked the dedicated medical team and assured them, "We Shaky and the others have made a full recovery. Best assured, I will personally relay everyone's invaluable contributions to the leadership." Denganki spun around, intercepting a hobbling silhouette as it tried to sneak away. "We're Shaky, your poor little body isn't back to full strength. Don't you dare go outside." Ignoring all counsel, Wu Shaky's face contorted with pure resentment. He clenched his jaw and let out a guttural scream, spitting out the name Yulin. Propping himself up on crutches, he staggered from the shelter, howling in fury. "This feud isn't over between us, not by a long shot." Meanwhile, back with Yulin, he had secured the treasure toad to her campfire post, his tone dripping with menace. "Still holding out on me, are we, my little green friend?" The poor toad could only emit terrified little noises as Yulin's hand, glowing with a sinister green aura, edged nearer to its face. Yulin settled back, his voice disturbingly gentle. "I have some excellent news and some rather terrible news for you. The good news, my amphibian friend, is that your miserable existence of suffering is almost complete." He then glanced upwards, the stare as sharp as a razor blade, and added, "And the bad news, naturally, is that your days are completely finished." Without even a second thought, Yulin slammed his hand, buzzing and crackling with electricity, right onto the treasure toad's back. From the amphibian's mouth, a truly magnificent spear, glowing with a brilliant golden light, began to slowly emerge. Almost instantly, a truly terrifying explosion ripped through the air, completely flattening a vast section of the surrounding forest. The blast left behind a huge crater, with all the nearby trees reduced to nothing but fine powder. Bizarrely, the treasure toad somehow survived the cataclysm, cowering in terror behind a small rock, emitting faint, frightened croaking noises. As Yulin held the newly acquired divine weapon, both he and Mai Shui were absolutely speechless. "Holy smokes, this thing," Yulin finally murmured, "is a little bit too powerful. Wouldn't you say?" Yulin decided to spare the thoroughly exhausted treasure toad. "I'd let you off the hook this time," he announced, "since you seem so remarkably honest. Now, run along." He turned excitedly to Mai Shui, rubbing his hands together. "Come on, Mai Shui, let us go find some more monsters to play with." But as he scanned the horizon, a peculiar and unnerving silence seemed to have descended upon the entire forest. Yulin furrowed his brow in confusion. Where in the world did all the monsters disappear to? He wondered aloud. Mai Shui pointed out the rather uncomfortable truth. "It appears," she said dryly, "that every single monster in this entire secret realm has been completely exterminated by you already." Recognizing that staying was pointless, Yulin concluded, since there are no more creatures left, lingering here would simply be a total waste of effort. Meanwhile, back at the exit gate, The bustling group of competitors were all murmuring amongst themselves, asking why the secret realm was completely devoid of monsters. One girl shared her account, explaining, when we finally made it to the inner levels after leveling up, there was nothing remaining but massive, scorched patches on the ground. She let out a frustrated sigh, choosing to hold back. We should probably wait for Wushaki and the others, she suggested. I can't imagine what on earth is going on here. Suddenly, someone from the crowd shrieked in terror after spotting two well-known individuals approaching. Yilin, get away from them, they screamed. They are way too scary. As Yilin and Masu finally reached the gate, Zengancher, the supervisor, blocked their path. Are you absolutely positive you want to abandon the secret realm entirely? They inquired. Yilin answered immediately and without any hesitation. Absolutely certain. Yes. Right then. Zengancher nodded. Please go ahead and register your current level for the record. Yilin nonchalantly held up 2 fingers, a shocking number in his casual manner. My level is 25, he stated simply. The entire crowd of contestants went completely silent, then erupted in utter disbelief. Level 25. They gasped. A forbidden arts master? Did he actually wipe out every single monster by himself? Zenganshi immediately stopped him again. Wait, you absolutely cannot depart now. You're almost certainly the national top scorer, which means you have to stay here to collect your prize. Just then, Wushaki finally exited the gate, a deep scowl across his face. What an absolutely miserable, rotten day, he grumbled. He grumbled irritably, having cored a treasure trove only to discover it was completely empty, and after searching all day he hadn't found a single monster. His teammate rushed over, gesturing frantically toward Yilin. He explained to young Master Wu that Yilin had already wiped out all the monsters and reached level 25. Wushaki froze in stunned disbelief, his eyes flaring with pure fury. What? PS level 25, the little past, he muttered angrily. As you scoffed, commenting that some individuals were truly pathetic failures, entering the challenge at level 22 and leaving exactly where they started. Wushaki bellowed in rage, joined by a female contestant who yelled, what good is a short-lived master of forbidden arts? DLL only hold back Daxier's progress. Monsieur refused to back down, yelling even louder, you're just incompetent and couldn't kill a single monster, so you mock us instead. Right in the middle of this petty argument, the massive surge of dark energy erupted, and Yilin was the first person to notice the anomaly. Puffed, what in the world is that? He murmured. Monsieur instantly panicked as the ground beneath her feet began to shake violently, interrupting her tirade. The entire space of the secret realm started to wobble and distort as the sky above turned an ominous, apocalyptic red. The other contestants also erupted into chaos, one person screaming in horror, Lofsht, the exit, it is actually disappearing. The enormous stone gate leading back to the outside world cracked apart and then vanished completely, extinguishing all hope of escape amidst desperate cries. The gigantic column of dark demonic energy suddenly burst from the ground, and a powerful voice echoed across the area, tremble, you weak humans. From within the dark energy pillar, the massive army of grotesque demonkind began to spill out like a festering plague. Zenganshi and Yilin were stunned into silence, while the supervisor gasped in horror. These are real demons. He realized the immense gravity of the disaster. It's impossible, he muttered. They've appeared right here in the top scorer's secret realm. Yilin stood firm without flinching, adopting a fighting posture and roaring defiantly. You demons dare invade the human realm. How incredibly audacious. The demon queen slowly materialized before them, her voice as chilling as ice. You humans are nothing more than a convenient meal for our kind, she informed them flatly. She continued her monologue, exposing a horrifying truth. You have the gall to imprison our relatives and use them as slaves for your hunting games. Her jade, green eyes suddenly flared with an undeniable and murderous malice. You are truly seeking your own demise, she declared, delivering a final judgment upon the completely stunned contestants. Zenganshi instantly positioned himself in front of the students to protect them. Everybody retreat behind me, he ordered firmly. Reinforcements will arrive soon. The seasoned supervisor stood there completely alone, staring down the massive, looming figure of the enemy forces. Without a moment's hesitation, he launched himself directly into the chaotic fray, determined to shield the next generation. In the middle of the utterly chaotic battlefield, Zenganshi bravely sprinted straight toward one of the menacing demons. The demon queen casually issued an order to her subordinate. Loader, this human here belongs to you. Deal with him, she commanded. Zenganshi let out a fierce warning not to harm the students, but the queen replied with a flippant air. Tor, don't fret, I am merely playing with them. She then taunted the group. I heard rumors that you represent the strongest humans this year. Fight me, and if you manage to win, I'll let everyone go. When the queen declared her level was only 20, a faint glimmer of desperate hope sparked in the minds of the contestants. A single young man pushed through the crowd, stepping forward confidently. I will be the one to face you, he announced boldly. This champion was Lin Zion, the celebrated top scorer of Sao City, who stood at level 21 and represented the final hope for the contestants. However, all dreams of triumph were unceremoniously obliterated the precise moment the royal matriarch's solitary, directed blow connected squarely with his jawline. Young Lin Zion soared through the air, flailing like a discarded marionette, before inconveniently landing amongst the startled, screaming spectators. The different competitor, clutching a lengthy polearm, instinctively stumbled backward, visibly gripped by profound apprehension. The infernal sovereign scoffed dismissively, regarding the esteemed contestant. What utter comedic relief. Truly, no stronger than a common picnic pest, surveying the quivering assemble. She sneered. What's the matter? Feeling a bit shy about participation? It appears humankind truly champions the art of spinelessness. Lying prone upon the turf, Lin Zion's digit jabbed towards Yilin, this bellowing cry echoing. Yilin, with immense capabilities arrives solemn accountability. What precisely delays your intervention here? Every gaze and harsh judgment simultaneously shifted towards Yilin, the renowned individual who had single-handedly purged the hidden domain of its monstrous inhabitants. Masui furiously bellowed at Wu Shaeki, the charlatan who was audaciously attempting to offload every single fault onto poor Yilin. Yilin composedly confronted Wu Shaeki, stating everyone should promptly surrender their superior, Sirgir, and he would attend to this predicament without further ado. Wu Shaeki looked utterly dumbfounded, knowing whether they were attempting to bleed their wallets dry. Disregarding the venomous remarks, Yilin pivoted, directing Masui to kindly gather all these invaluable possessions for safekeeping. The Empress of the Underworld folded her limbs, clearly entertained by the petty squabbles erupting amidst the mortal competitors. Yilin's vision sharpened considerably, a pucing look in his stare. Indeed there is perpetually that single spoiled fruit, persistently disrupting his tranquility. The oppressive hush unmistakably heralded an unavoidable, imminent confrontation. Amidst the barren wasteland, Yilin stood solitary, confronting the formidable infernal monarch. His gaze glowed with unyielding resolve, whereas his formidable adversary merely offered a condescending, dismissive glare in return. Without a moment's pause, Yilin declared, "Flaming orb." The gathered competitors began to chatter amongst themselves, with Wu Shaeki derisively querying, engaging such a formidable foe, and his chosen offensive maneuver is merely a paltry, basic technique. The infernal empress simply remained utterly nonchalant, observing the pathetic fiery projectiles lethargically approaching her position. She emitted a hearty cackle, remarking how utterly whimsical employing incendiary orbs against her was, deeming him a truly peculiar fellow. The monarch effortlessly intercepted Yilin's offensive maneuver using only her unadorned appendage. However, upon the youthful gentleman's visage, a curious smirk abruptly materialized. Abruptly, a colossal, brown, shaking detonation occurred, utterly startling the sovereign, causing her to muse aloud what exactly was happening. Enveloped within an inferno of fire, she found her senses utterly disbelieving, questioning if that infernal projectile truly was the same one from moments ago. At a distance, the remaining highly ranked combatants stood utterly dumbfounded by the gargantuan fiery orb, with one loudly proclaiming just how Yilin's incendiary sphere had become so immensely potent. Presuming triumph was now certain, one competitor exuberantly celebrated. However, Yilin gravely cautioned everyone to hold their horses and direct their attention to observe. The scorching conflagration abruptly get drawn inward, as if by some unseen, mysterious gravitational anomaly. The demonic sovereign materialized from a swirling void of pure power, entirely unscratched, amusing how fascinating and truly quite captivating indeed it was. The wound on her extremity swiftly mended, and then she presented a curious proposition, announcing she now liked him and desired him as her loyal canine companion. Villainer, with a sarcastic smirk, retorted, "I already like you too, so how about you become my child?" All while meticulously preparing a fresh spell talisman. Recognizing that mere words were utterly pointless, the queen immediately launched into a lethal attack, precisely as Yilin was gearing up for his grand sacrifice. Abruptly, an enormous barricade of earth and stone majestically erupted from the ground, dramatically intercepting her assault. A mysterious stranger, clutching a spear, materialized on the scene, rudely shattering the tense standoff and interrupting their deadly quarrel. Yilin braced himself, secretly grumbling about the absurd heft of his opponent's relentless blows. The demon queen tirelessly unleashed a barrage of abilities, utterly determined to deny him even a single breath for casting a spell. Down below, the spectators fell into a frenzy, muttering, "Good heavens, Villainer, why are you just edging? Bust out a forbidden incantation already." Abruptly, the young woman, clad in her exquisite dress, grew confused, wondering why it had become so incredibly sweltering, leaving her lips and hands painfully parched. From her vantage point above, the queen scoffed derisively, declaring, "As long as I can disrupt your little spell, you are merely frail mortal." Yilin smirked, simply stating, "Running away." Look around. The queen was utterly flabbergasted, suddenly realizing the entire sky had been overtaken by countless, shimmering magical formations. What is this nonsense? She mused with a frown, completely baffled by what was transpiring. Yilin raised two fingers, then growled, calling it just an average illumination spell. "Now ignite." Instantly, the monstrous whirlpool of pure radiance utterly swallowed the unsuspecting queen. The sheer, devastating force of the resulting explosion seemed powerful enough to shred the very fabric of existence itself. Inside the storm's heart, the queen remained unfazed, simply noting, "Dor, a magic shield." From her robust defense, she confidently boasted, "You simply cannot wound me." But hold on, that was all just a clever distraction, as the forbidden incantation, Eternal Thunder, had already been conjured. Tear right through it, Yellen bellowed, unleashing a magnificent lightning spear imbued with his complete power. The mystical shield instantly fragmented, leaving the queen to gaze in sheer terror as the spear hurtled directly toward her. The electrically charged spear impaled her chest, and her form began to spectacularly unravel in excruciating agony. How absolutely dare you? She wheezed, clinging desperately to the weapon that destroyed her. You're insignificant human. Her fury exploded, and the queen shrieked uncontrollably, vowing, I shall absolutely obliterate you. The demon queen roared for him to die, then lunged. Yellen gritted his teeth, his focused gaze remaining perfectly steady despite the overwhelming, dreadful pressure. The colossal stone chunk was effortlessly hurled away by the immense shockwave, burying itself deeply within the earth. The demoness elegantly floated midair, brazenly announcing her interior decorating plans. I shall simply decapitate you and display your head proudly in my study. Suddenly, Yellen dropped to one knee, his voice hoarse as he uttered two chilling words. Pure sacrifice. Forbidden art, karma flame. He murmured, now bolstered with a whopping 50% fire element amplification and enhancement effect. With shadowy smudges now gracing his features, Yellen offered a cocky smirk, asking if anyone could even begin to cope. The demon queen's jaw dropped so low it nearly hit her regal toes, as the heavens above her unexpectedly blossomed with arcane golden glyphs. She shrieked, utterly bewildered, finding that the pesky sparks had defiantly lingered. Instantly, a devastating pillar of vibrant orange energy burst from the earth, swallowing her whole like a magical, fiery snack. The assemble of competitors, a delightful mix of aghast and ecstatic, erupted in cheers, proclaiming their triumph. Yellen had truly pulled it off. Brown Zero sported an impressive new crater, while Yellen, looking rather like a forgotten barbecue, stood solitary amidst wisps of smoke. Sprawled on the dirt, the demon queen coughed dramatically amidst her own crimson puddle, grumbling incredulously that she'd actually been bested by a mere mortal. Concurrently, Luther bellowed like a particularly grumpy dragon at Zenganshi, utterly outraged, questioning the nerve of that wretched human. When the beast unexpectedly swerved past him, Zenganshi shrieked like a banshee at Yellen, begging him to stay alert. Drained and utterly spent, Yellen could only gaze hopelessly as the colossal monster galloped toward him, a morbid thought lingering. Was this truly curtains for him? Without warning, a cosmic gash ripped through reality itself, abruptly halting Luther's aggressive assault. Everyone, from Yellen to Zenganshi, stayed skyward with wide eyes, a collective gasp escaping. It was, indeed, City Lord he. Then, a truly majestic figure descended, a voice booming with undeniable authority, announcing with a chuckle, reinforcements are here, and you demons, if you've shown up, can completely forget about making a graceful departure. Hu Yunfeng cast a disdainful glance below, snorting with amusement, suggesting they might have been wiser to simply remain cooped up in their own infernal domains. Direct, no sooner had he uttered his final syllable than a rather unpleasant, devastating ray of brilliance plummeted from the heavens, making a beeline straight for the gathered demon mob. A contestant with a trendy bob cut couldn't help but blurt out in sheer astonishment. Gee whiz, the guy is practically a superhero. The demon bodyguard hastily snatched his superior, yelping frantically, Malish, we absolutely must bolt right now. This human is operating on a completely different power level. The demon, who introduced himself rather dramatically as Gallagher, fixed a contestant with a menacing glare. Zalin, Yellen, I presume, consider this a personal invitation to my hit list. One day your noggin will be mine. And with a dramatic flair, the two demonic chaps promptly scarped into a shimmering portal, tossing a rather cliché promise over their shoulders. We shall certainly cross paths once more. Contemplating his departure, Hu Yunfeng wore a self-assured smirk, his features openly daring the world to try him. With a frosty tone, Hu yelled after them. Did they honestly imagine he'd let them waltz off so simply, simultaneously unleashing a relentless energy beam to chase them down? The demon guard shrieked in sheer terror, blubbering a dire warning. My lord, heads up. Valgar, doing a quick 180, found his complexion turning a rather ghastly shade of white, realizing the impending strike was simply inescapable. He let out a truly thunderous roar, a stern reprimand for Hu Yunfeng not to let hubris get the better of him, simultaneously conjuring an absolutely enormous demonic hand for defense. Alas, the city lord's powerful beam effortlessly sliced through that rather pathetic, tissue, paper, thin barrier. The resulting explosion generated a truly bone-rattling farce, prompting the young man with the gravity-defying hair to gasp, "Holy moly, talk about a crushing atmosphere." The little lady's hand instinctively flew to her dramatically heaving chest. She promptly buckled, physically preparing for the utterly ghastly ripples emanating from the fierce showdown. From a safe distance, Valgar's taunting voice echoed, "If you think you're so tough, come on over and track me down in the demon realm." Big shot, Hu Yunfeng shot back with a razor-sharp comeback. Dorv, the day is fast approaching when the mighty champions of Daxir will indeed pay a visit to your infernal backyard and completely eradicate every last one of you. The long fight finally concluded, and the magnificent city lord gracefully descended to the ground. He apologized to all the contestants with clasped hands, but everyone immediately defended him, insisting that those terrible demons were entirely at fault. Hu Yunfeng announced that the teleportation portal had been repaired, and suggested the top participants return for some rest. The contestants filed out in sequence, breathing sighs of relief mixed with lingering fear after such a harrowing ordeal. Standing next to someone who was still sobbing, Yulin merely thought to himself that it was finally finished. Darkness settled over the metropolis, signifying a brief period of quiet following the chaotic battle. Back in his hotel room, Yulin collapsed onto the bed, acknowledging how truly perilous this hidden realm actually was. A sudden knock on the entrance made him sit up, wondering if Mai Shui had made a mistake and gone to the wrong room once more. But upon opening the door, Yulin was completely stunned. The unexpected visitor was none other than City Lord He Yunfeng. Yulin, I just stopped by to check on your injuries, He Yunfeng stated with a cheerful grin to the bewildered young man. Yulin politely insisted that he had recovered, but He Yunfeng brought up his remarkable achievement of defeating the royal demons. Were you willing to serve Shandang? The city lord inquired directly, getting straight to the point about recruitment. He Yunfeng disclosed that he knew Yulin was a master of forbidden techniques, and that Shandang needed his unique power to deter the demonic forces. After a moment of consideration, Yulin replied that he wanted to accept, yet had to check with someone else first. Upon hearing the name Zhuje Kingsing, Wu Yunfeng chuckled softly, saying, So it is Mr. Zhuje, very well then, I will go to Qingshan personally. Just as the city lord prepared to leave, another rapping sounded on the door, drawing the attention of both men. A female attendant with cat ears entered with a tray of fruit, explaining it was a prize for the highest rank competitor. The girl quietly stepped into the room, maintaining a submissive appearance, but radiating a truly icy atmosphere. Suddenly, she stopped completely, lifting her head with focused eyes, and murmured, what is that odd smell? The dangerous, unseen presence exploded from the attendant's distinctive purple irises. Sensing immediate peril, Hu Yunfeng roared, warning Yulin to be careful. The assassin lunged from behind, her short blade flashing menacingly as she hissed, Die now. But the weapon was swiftly parried. Hu Yunfeng asked icily, Who dispatched a level 50 assassin like you? To the girl's shock, he snarled, demanding she identify her employer immediately if she didn't want to die. When she kept silent, the city lord delivered an immense kick that launched her across the chamber. The assassin collapsed onto the floor, with crimson liquid slowly seeping from the corner of her lips. Taking advantage of the brief moment, she swiftly snatched the dagger, causing Yunfeng to understand her purpose instantly. With a determined look, she cried out, I cannot speak, appearing to attempt taking her own life. But then, her hand suddenly grew limp, and her life faded before the weapon could even make contact. Yunfeng deduced that this particular venom could instantly take down a level 50 assassin. Confirming the culprit wasn't some minor league player, Yulin immediately offered his guess. Could it be those Wu family ruffians? He turned to calm Yulin, reassuring him. Don't worry, I promise a thorough investigation, and I will personally ensure Wu Shaiki gives you a groveling apology. Yunfeng angrily spun on his heel, fuming that the Wu family had clearly gone too far, vowing to immediately dispatch someone to uncover the truth. Yulin could only let out a long, weary sigh as he stared at the mounting pile of problems on his own shoulders. Just then, the frantic, rapid knocking echoed through the room, somehow managing to annoy him even more. For goodness sake, who could that possibly be? He muttered to himself. The door burst open, and Mai Shui rushed in, practically bouncing with excitement. Yulin, you're the top student in the whole country. You've brought honor to your family, she exclaimed. He merely replied curtly, I am an orphan. Mai Shui froze in place for several seconds, completely unsure how to react to the unexpected curveball. Regaining her composure quickly, she raised her phone and declared, Well, regardless, you're amazing. Now, come on, let us take a picture to remember this moment. As she looked at the phone screen, Mai Shui let out a horrified shriek, demanding to know why there was a dead body present. Yulin calmly suggested, Mai Shui, could you perhaps call someone to clean this up first? Seeing her bewildered and suspicious expression, Hu explained, Don't get too worked up. Yes, merely an assassin sent by Wu Shaiki to kill me. That's all. Mai Shui's confusion instantly evaporated in a rage, as she rolled up her sleeves. What? The guy actually tried to murder you. Come on, we're going to teach him a serious lesson right now.